Urban Pokémon. The strongest trainer. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Tie. Hold on. Zhu Xiandao was even more confident in his black and white. Zhu Xiandao, Sister Zhu. Zhang, who was in the audience, was completely stunned by the scene in front of her. First, the terrifying fighting power of these two people made her a little unbelievable. It turned out that the two people around her were so strong that they were not even from the same world as her. At that moment, she suddenly felt abandoned, as if she was an outsider among them. This feeling suddenly made Zhang feel extremely disappointed. Bang! And the storm with lightning, I don't know how long it lasted, and finally couldn't hold on anymore. With a bang, it disappeared without a trace. His two elves who were originally in the center also quickly appeared in front of everyone, and then they smashed to the ground at the same time. Bang! There were two heavy collisions, and the ground was even dusty. Black and white. Hakron, Zhu Xiandao and Zhu Feng were also full of worries. Although they didn't know who would win in the end, they knew that this battle was even more thrilling. Even if they win the battle, their elves will probably be injured. No matter what, as the masters of the elves, they are also very distressed. When the smoke and dust dissipated, they saw a big pit in the middle of the field. In the pit, black and white were covered with wounds and unconscious. Hakron next to him was naturally not feeling well, but at this time he still had heavy eyelids and took a hard look at black and white who were already unconscious. As if he was sure that he could hold on longer, Hakron smiled and then fainted with a plop. Black and white, Hakron lost their combat effectiveness at the same time. A tie. Both players change elves. After taking a look, the host slowly spoke. Although the host knew that it was Hakron who held on longer, this was a 3:3 battle, and who held on for one more second at this time would have no meaning at all. At this time, the crowd burst into thunderous applause. This battle was too exciting to watch. For a moment, many people who did not participate in the duel showed an excited look, and they couldn't wait to go up and fight with them. Zhu Xiandao and Zhu Feng also took back their spirits at the same time. The battle is over. Black and white's level has been upgraded, and the current level is 44. Pippi Bird's level has been upgraded, and the level is 32. Disaster Spirit has been registered and upgraded, and the current level is 36. Zhu Xiandao was also surprised, because black and white had fainted, and in the past, could this be considered a victory in the battle? This can gain experience. As long as you fight, whether you win or lose, you can gain experience. At this time, the voice of the system suddenly sounded, and this battle is also considered a draw, so there will naturally be experience bonus. Zhu Xiandao also nodded. It turns out that, as long as you fight, you can gain experience. If this is really the case, then there are many ways to gain experience. At this time, Zhu Xiandao also glanced at Zhu Feng. After Zhu Feng took back his spirit, he also looked at Zhu Xiandao with embarrassment, because he had said before that they would only play one game, but he didn't expect that this game would be a draw. Originally, in Zhu Feng's cognition, it was easy for him to influence Zhu Xiandao, but after all, this time he took out all his strength, and this was the first time Zhu Feng was so serious. But he didn't expect that he would still lose this game, even though he was so serious. This really surprised him. Zhu Feng had more than a year of training and experience, while Zhu Xiandao had just graduated. If Zhu Xiandao was given the same amount of time, Zhu Feng even felt that Zhu Xiandao was even better than him. This made Zhu Feng's strong self-esteem very unhappy. Looking at Zhu Feng's cannibalistic eyes, Zhu Xiandao couldn't help but shudder, and then quickly raised his hand. I admit defeat. After saying that, he looked at Zhu Feng in the distance again. We said before that we would only play one game, and this time it is a draw, and all I want is that elf egg. After Zhu Feng glanced at Zhu Xiandao, although he was very unhappy, Zhu Xiandao said so, and it was difficult for him to refuse. The referee was also a little surprised at this time. After all, he thought there would be a wonderful 3v3 battle, but he didn't expect that the two of them only played one game and Zhu Xiandao admitted defeat. However, the financial judge couldn't say much about this matter. After all, the other party had already admitted defeat, and he could only follow Zhu Xiandao's opinion. At this time, the audience looked even more unhappy. They thought they could see 2 more exciting games, but now their expectations were dashed, and they were immediately dissatisfied. Congratulations to the host for completing the task, and you will get a method to make an energy block, and 2 draws. Just after Capon announced the victory, the voice of the system sounded in Zhu Xiandao's mind, and then the knowledge about making blue energy blocks appeared in the mind of the male protagonist G. In this world, energy blocks cannot restore the power of elves like supplementary potions, but their function can indeed make the appearance of elves more beautiful and more attractive. Love is a thing that has no practical use in battle, but in reality, there are many people like Zhang Na who are completely members of the Appearance Association. This kind of energy block is nothing short of a priceless treasure for people in this foreign trade association, and everyone wants to make their elves more beautiful. Of course, energy blocks naturally have more than just this one use. If used frequently, they can also enhance the physical fitness of elves. Among the food of elves, this is considered a highly nutritious item. Of course, energy blocks are also divided into grades. The higher the grade of the energy block, the better the effect, and the higher the value. Although Zhu Xiandao only obtained the method of making blue energy blocks, in this world, Zhu Xiandao can fill his stomach and have a better life with blue energy blocks. Because things like energy blocks are impossible to eat frequently, even for a rich second generation. Because in the process of making energy blocks, the materials needed are not cheap, and the value is higher after they are made. If you can get energy blocks every meal, although it can make your elves more powerful and their physical fitness is incredibly strong, it is also a bottomless pit for your own money consumption. Chapter 27 Breakthrough. On the other side, Zhu Xiandao, Zhu Feng and another staff member came to the podium. Zhu Xiandao also looked at the Pokémon egg with shining eyes. Congratulations, Miss Zhu, this is your prize, the host said, handing over a Pokéball and 50,000 Pokémon coins. Then it was Zhu Xiandao's turn. Mr. Chen, you can now choose any Pokémon egg, plus 20,000 Pokémon coins. Zhu Xiandao also chose the Pokémon egg of Beanbenai without hesitation. After the 3 people finished their choices, Zhu Feng also gave the starfish to Zhang Na, but Zhang Na didn't look so happy, and the whole person was a little disappointed. On the other side, the 3 people also ran directly to Jinling Center H. After all, the battle just now had caused serious damage to their Pokémons. When they returned to the hotel after the treatment, Zhu Feng also asked Zhang Na next to him, "What's going on? You seem unhappy since the game. Didn't you get your favorite starfish?" Zhu Feng said puzzledly, "I just feel that my strength is too weak. If I were stronger, I could even do it myself." Zhang Na said in a depressed mood. After hearing Zhang Na's words, Zhu Feng was suddenly stunned and finally thought of something. "You are just a newly graduated trainer. When I just graduated, I suffered a lot and fell a lot. But with me by your side, you will grow faster, and then you will become a better and more powerful existence than me." Zhu Feng next to him also said with a smile, "You must be lying to me. Zhu Xiandao also graduated with me, but don't compare with him. He is not a normal person, he is a pervert." Before Zhang Na finished speaking, she was interrupted by Zhu Feng next to her. "What do you mean? Why do you scold me for no reason?" Zhu Xiandao was originally admiring the Pokémon egg he had just obtained, but suddenly turned his head with a depressed look on his face. "You two are just chatting, but you brought me along for no reason and insulted me. What's the meaning? I came all the way here with you, and it's hard enough to be your servant, and now I have to be insulted by you." "That's right, anyone who can't compare with him is not a normal person, but a pervert." Zhang Na next to him suddenly laughed, and her face, which was originally a little lost, suddenly regained its former spirit. Zhu Xiandao was even more upset. He really didn't want to pay attention to these 2 crazy women, and he didn't know why they suddenly started to point their guns at him. "Thank you for today." Just as they were about to return to the hotel, Zhu Feng suddenly said to Zhu Xiandao next to him, Zhu Xiandao was a little surprised because Yi Zufeng's personality could take the initiative to say thank you, which was really unprecedented. Nothing. Anyway, I just want the elf egg. You don't have to take it to heart. I mean, thank you for being willing to fight me with all your strength. Zhu Feng shook his head, and it was obvious that Zhu Xiandao misunderstood what he meant. What do you mean? Zhu Xiandao was even more confused and puzzled. I spent a long time training Haxorus, but since a while ago, no matter how I trained him, it didn't seem to have any effect. And I feel that his strength is not normal at all, so I also want to find a Jinling who can practice etiquette with him, so that we can have a good fight. Maybe there will be a breakthrough. Zhu Feng explained slowly. Zhu Xiandao also nodded. After all, the higher the level, the more difficult it is to upgrade. It seems that Haxorus has not yet reached the breakthrough opportunity he needs at the critical moment of breakthrough. But looking at your conditions, your family background should not be simple. You might as well find a Pokémon to practice with. How simple it would be. Zhu Xiandao shook his head. After all, those professional Pokémon sparring partners are much more professional than himself. Not only can they control their strength very well, but they can also guide the experience of trainers and Pokémon. That's different. The people in our family are either too powerful, and I'm no match for them, or too weak, and I don't even take action. Zhu Feng also shook his head. After all, in a big family, there are strong people and naturally weak people, and the gap is still very large. Thank you, no need. I hope you can change your temper in the future. Your hot temper is really a problem. Zhu Xiandao spoke again. Can you speak? Zhu Feng stared at Zhu Xiandao with wide eyes and anger. Zhu Feng knew that his temper was not very good, but you didn't need to say that. After dinner, the three of them came to the train station. Since they were planning to leave in the afternoon, they were delayed for a while because of the competition. But no one felt that it was not worth it because of this little time. Zhang Na also got the starfish she wanted, and Zhu Xiandao also got his own elf egg. After the train they took arrived and became a hotel, Zhu Xiandao also slowly bought something and started to wash. Zhu Xiandao also decided to challenge the gym today and complete his second challenge. When Zhu Xiandao walked out of the room, he happened to see two women coming out from next door, smiling and greeting them, and the three of them went out to have breakfast together. I didn't expect you to have so many elves. Zhu Xiandao looked at Zhu Feng's classics in the backyard in shock. For others, it was not easy to have 2 or 3 elves, but Zhu Feng found that Zhu Feng's Azu had 5. And each one was not a simple elf, but a top-notch one. As expected of a rich man, he could easily get elves that others could not expect. Zhu Xiandao was envious and jealous. The gap between people was really big. It would be great if he could get these. Hakran level 50. Zhu Xiandao was also surprised. If Hakran Zhu Xiandao G remembered correctly, his level yesterday seemed to be 49. I didn't expect that when I saw him again today, he had broken through the 50th level. Zhu Xiandao also found that Hakran even exuded a kind of momentum that was vague. In fact, this had never appeared before. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28. It's not good to treat a newbie like this. Your Haxorus has broken through. Congratulations. Zhu Xiandao said casually. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, Zhu Feng looked at him in surprise, then looked at him carefully. Not long after, she also found that her elf was indeed a little different from before. This is too good. Sister Zhu really wants to congratulate you. Zhang Na next to her also said excitedly. Hei Bei also ran to Zhu Xiandao's side. Woo woo. What is going on? These two can't be your spouses. You will die miserably like this. Not at all. Zhu Xiandao also covered his forehead with a black line. I really don't know what Hei Bei is thinking. He actually thinks so. Even if I have that idea, he has to agree. What's wrong? Zhang Na next to him also looked at Zhu Xiandao in confusion. Nothing, just chatting with my elf. Zhu Xiandao smiled slightly. Fortunately, Zhang Na didn't know what his experience was talking about. If these two women heard it, I guess at least a layer of skin would be peeled off. Not long after, in front of Jiangcheng Dojo, Zhu Xiandao and Zhu Feng were registering to continue the challenge, while Zhang Na was waiting in the audience. Zhu Xiandao also felt that the registration staff at the front desk looked at him with a strange look. You are Zhu Xiandao and Zhu Feng, right? Just as the two were filling in the registration information, a gentle voice suddenly came from behind. Zhu Xiandao turned his head and found that there was a beautiful lady in a black and white dress behind him. Zhu Xiandao knew at a glance that the person in front of him was Zhang Qian, the owner of Jiangcheng Dojo. The reason why Zhu Xiandao knew that was that he had already learned about the information of Jiangcheng's payment before coming, so he was very familiar with the director of the dojo in front of him. Director Zhang, do you know us? Zhu Xiandao was a little confused. Could it be that he had just registered, and even if the other party could call out his name, it shouldn't be now? And looking at the other party's expression, there was a hint of doubt and curiosity in his eyes, as if he had already known his name and had known about him. But at that time, he was sure that he hadn't seen him for a long time. Of course, how could I not know him? Zhang Qian also said with a smile. I watched your match on the beach yesterday. It was very exciting and very popular in the entire elf circle now. Zhang Qian also explained. At this time, Zhu Xiandao suddenly understood why the front desk lady looked at him so strangely. It turned out that she saw him and his challenge opponent registering together, so. But that's not right. Why did his battle video yesterday suddenly become so famous? Zhu Feng next to him was very calm. Although he didn't expect to become famous because of such a small thing, he was also a person who participated in the national conference anyway. The national conference was broadcast live nationwide, so in his opinion, it was very normal for his name to be known by others. Are you two going to challenge today? Zhang Qian also looked at the two people in front of her, and the excitement in her eyes became stronger and stronger, even making Zhu Xiandao feel creepy. I don't know why Zhu Xiandao was stared at by the woman in front of him. He even felt like he was being stared at by a wild beast, as if he would be eaten up by this beautiful big sister in front of him in the next moment. We wanted to challenge you at that time. Please start quickly. Zhu Feng next to him said impatiently. Zhang Qian also looked at him in confusion, as if she was also very surprised why it was this woman who replied to her, and this attitude even had a sense of superiority. Since you are so anxious, then let's start now. Follow me. After Zhang Qian finished speaking, she walked towards the challenge area. What are you looking at? Hurry up. Mr. Zhu also glanced at Zhu Xiandao who was still in a daze next to him, and then hurriedly followed Zhang Qian to the challenge area. Zhu Xiandao looked up and shook his head, and then followed the figures of the two beauties closely. Not long after, they came to the inside. And here there is a very large pool on top, and there are many handrails and steps. Obviously, this time this is their battle venue. There are naturally many spectator seats around, and there are also many people in the spectator seats at this time. Next, let's invite challenger Zhu Xiandao to compete with the gym trainer. The host also spoke slowly. Come out, my Kappa. Just after the man on the opposite side finished speaking, a Lot Kappa appeared in front of Zhu Xiandao. Lot Kappa, level 34. After seeing the opponent's level, Zhu Xiandao was even more confused. Is this level 4 novices to challenge? This is completely bullying. If every gym takes out such a high level Pokémon, then 90% of the people who can get the gym badge in the country will definitely disappear. After all, you are also a person who gets a badge, so the difficulty will naturally increase. As if seeing through Zhu Xiandao's thoughts, Zhang Qian also spoke slowly. After all, in this world, any gym will increase the difficulty according to the number of your gyms. Zhu Xiandao didn't want to complain anymore. Anyway, the other party was obviously doing it on purpose, and it was simply looking for an excuse. Come out, Pidgeot. Zhu Xiandao summoned his Pokémon Pidgeot without thinking. Now the challenge begins. The challenger will attack first. Zhang Qian, who was standing next to him, also spoke slowly. Zhu Xiandao would not be polite at all. Surprise attack. The next moment, he saw the moves of the BB bird, which were instantly interrupted. A flash of lightning. Hurry up and get out of the way. Although the opponent's orders were very quick, Pipiao was faster. Only a flash of lightning was seen in the intestines, and the opponent's Pokémon was hit directly before it even reacted. Not simple, because it's just a Pidgeot, but its moves are actually faster than ordinary Pokémon. Zankian, who was watching this scene next to him, was also a little surprised, because she even had a special feeling when she saw Pidgeot in front of her. This Pidgeot, I'm afraid he is born with very strong physical fitness. The gym trainer was also a little surprised. After all, in his opinion, he should be able to dodge such an attack. Chapter 29 Level 40 Air Slash. The male protagonist was right there, and at this moment, several wind blades suddenly appeared in the air. The second giant Hetting, who had not yet climbed up, was hit again, and this time the attack caused a lot of damage. At this time, Hetting had not even climbed up, and he fell to the ground again, with scars all over his body. Bubble Ray. The gym trainer spoke again. The battle will end in a flash of lightning. Zhu Xiandao glanced at it lightly, and his words were full of confidence. Obviously, this level of battle was too easy for Zhu Xiandao. At this time, Kappa also spit out a lot of bubbles, and these bubbles also floated towards Pidgeot. Pidgeot didn't care at all. These bubbles turned directly into a white light, and the lightning flashed in the air, and then directly hit the body of Lot Kappa. You are really powerful. I originally thought you would send out black and white. Zankian also looked at Zhu Xiandao with some surprise. I just think it doesn't matter what kind of Pokémon there is. Anyway, my Pokémon will appear, right? Zhu Xiandao smiled slightly. Why, if that's the case, then Golduck, come out. Just as Zankian finished speaking, a blue duck suddenly appeared in everyone's sight. No way. Zhu Xiandao frowned as he looked at the Golduck in front of him, which was level 35. Zhu Xiandao was very helpless. Is it popular to bully people now? This is not the challenge that a novice trainer should have. Water Wave. Just as Zankian finished speaking, bubbles suddenly appeared on Jidaya's body and condensed together to form a water ball, rushing directly towards Pidgeot. Air Slash. Just as he finished speaking, King then followed the water ball and the air slash and instantly collided with each other, making a loud bang, and then disappeared in the air. Lightning Flash. Just as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, he saw Pidgeot turn into a flash of lightning. I knew you would use this move. Use the Mind Hammer. The next second, the two Pokémons of BB Bird and Golduck collided with each other. Water Wave. Zankian once again gave orders quickly. Guard. Although Zhu Xiandao had prepared a defensive move, this time the guard did not block the opponent's skills, because the distance was too close. The guard skill was broken by the opponent, before it was formally formed. Air Slash. Zhu Xiandao naturally wanted to counterattack quickly. However, as soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, the Pidgeot did not take any action, but flew around like a drunk elf. Damn, this luck is too good. It actually hit the chaos. Zhu Xiandao frowned, and did not expect that such a negative effect would appear. You know, the probability of a cover effect like this is quite low. Basically, as long as there is a little resistance, it will not hit at all. Come back, Pidgeot. Zhu Xiandao took back the Pidgeot without thinking, because the moment he was hit by the chaos, he had already lost the game. If he continued to fight, his experience would be more damaged. In this case, it would be better to admit defeat directly. Come out, Disaster Elf. I didn't expect you to be so smart. It's a very wise choice to use Water Wave. Just as Zankian finished speaking, another wastewater ball flew towards the Disaster Elf. Smash it. Zhu Xiandao said bluntly. Disaster Elf is a melee combat system anyway, and the physical fitness of the elves is even stronger than that of ordinary elves. The Disaster Elf's hand instantly turned into a sickle, and it chopped down with one palm, splitting the water ball in half. 100,000 volts. He was about to give an order, and Zankian was stunned after hearing the skill. Before he could react, the 100,000 volts had already hit the bodies of the big families, and the lightning kept flashing. A painful look appeared on the face of the god duck. Immobilization. Following Zankian's words, the 100,000 volts of the Disaster Elf were also interrupted. It's really troublesome. Zhu Xiandao frowned slightly. The opponent's experience was too rich. He could react in such a situation. Phantom Sword Dance. Just after Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, the disaster spirit began to disappear from the spot, and the whole person turned into a sword shadow. Then one after another, the practice appeared, instantly surrounded the Golduck, forming a net, and even locked it in. Self-suggestion. Zhu Xiandao also frowned. He originally wanted to fight hard. After all, his disaster spirit was a fighting type. But the opponent had a variety of states, and any skill could instantly increase his attack. Go up and fight hard. Zhu Xiandao didn't plan to continue. It would be a waste of time. If the opponent added more states, it would be more disadvantageous to him. Water Column Tail. How could the opponent let Zhu Xiandao rush over so recklessly? Even if the Ninjing spirit could rush to the front of the Golduck, it would have to withstand several attacks. See-through. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, the disaster elf seemed to have predicted every move of Gotha Duck and the position of every skill. It easily dodged all of Gotha Duck's skills and instantly appeared in front of Gotha Duck. Sneak attack. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, the disaster elf that was originally standing in front of Gotha Duck disappeared instantly, and when it appeared again, it was already behind Gotha Duck. The elf once again drew a palm knife with his palm and slashed at Gotha Duck's neck. With a bang, Gotha Duck flew backwards with a scream. At this time, Zhang Qian was even more shocked. Even Zhu Xiandao next to him was a little surprised, because this episode not only succeeded in dialysis, but also hit the vital point, and the damage increased several times. Looking at the unconscious Gotha Duck lying on the ground, Zhang Qian laughed and cried, not expecting that he would be defeated so easily. The level of Pidgeot has increased by level 33. The voice of the system also rang in Zhu Xiandao's mind. Come out, Water Elf. As Zhang Qian finished speaking, a Water Elf of level 40 appeared in front of Zhu Xiandao. You are going too far. Zhu Xiandao couldn't help but said. Are you sure you are treating a novice with a level 40 elf? Chapter 30. Next stop. Zhu Xiandao also had a headache. He didn't expect the other party to directly find such a high level elf. The water elf is level 40. This may be bullying. Yusion. Just when Zhu Xiandao was complaining in his heart, the other party took the lead in attacking. This is too much. You took out such a high level elf and actually attacked. As the other party operated, the eyes of the disaster elf began to become drowsy. There was even a feeling of falling down. The disaster elf used a sneak attack. Zhu Xiandao also had a helpless look on his face. Since he had been hit, Zhu Xiandao knew that he couldn't get rid of it at all. In this case, he would cause some damage to the other party before falling asleep. At this time, the elf also flashed like a fairy. The whole person appeared behind the crystal spirit like a shadow in an instant, and the palm painting knife was directly draped on the back of the water elf. Just when the disaster elf had just finished the sneak attack, the whole person fell to the ground with a plop and fell asleep. Zhu Xiandao also took back the disaster elf directly. Anyway, you have done very well in the outside world. At least we dealt a heavy blow to the opponent before we fell asleep. Come out, Black and White. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, Black and White appeared on the battlefield in an instant, and the water elf had just recovered. Yawn. The gym leader was the first to speak again. Electric field. Zhu Xiandao gave orders quickly. If he was hit again, he would lose. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, the entire battlefield was instantly filled with white, and there was even electric light in the white, shining from time to time. The gym leader was also a wet dream. He never thought that Black and White would have such a skill, and his original skill was instantly interrupted by this aura, and the gym leader also frowned. 100,000 volts. Zhu Xiandao spoke again. Hearing Zhu Xiandao's words, the gym leader also came back to his senses. Jump into the water. As the gym leader spoke, the world jumped directly into the pool next to him with a splash. Zhu Xiandao was also somewhat surprised at what the other party was doing. Was he courting death? Nowadays, everyone knows that water is conductive. Why do you have to hide in the water when you can hide anywhere else? What's the point of doing this? Muddy current. Just when Zhu Xiandao was puzzled, the gym leader's words reminded him of something again. Then a stream of turbid water suddenly appeared and shot towards Heli Bay in an instant. Guard, and then charge. Zhu Xiandao quickly issued orders. Although the other party was hiding under the water and using his water characteristics to avoid part of the electricity and reduce the damage of his 100,000 volts, his Heli Bay was an expert in using electricity. Even if you are the first to hide in the water, it doesn't make any sense. The turbid water column hit the protective shield on Heli Bay with a plop, but did not cause any damage. After seeing this, Zhu Xiandao smiled slightly and said that the other party's attack was not enough to hurt his elf. Use discharge. Zhu Xiandao smiled slightly. After charging for so long, he was using the discharge skill. No matter how deep the semester was, at least Zhu Xiandao could ensure that the entire pool was full of electricity. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, a crackling sound suddenly sounded, and the entire venue, including the pool, instantly turned white. Seeing this scene in front of him, the gym leader was also worried, looking at the pool that had turned white. After all, his water spirit did have a property suppression in front of black and white. Black and white were born to restrain themselves in terms of attributes. It must be said that such a battle simply made him feel extremely frustrated. As the white light continued to flash, the water in the pool was emitting white steam, and water vapor continued to emerge, and the depth of the pool was constantly decreasing. After a moment, black and white also stopped their actions. At this time, the crystal spirit floated on the water, and its body was black. Black and white wins, and the final winner is the challenger, Zhu Xiandao. This time the referee also announced the final result. You are really not simple. I have never seen such a powerful newcomer who just graduated. This is a badge of our gym. Take it. The gym leader said as he came to Zhu Xiandao and took out a badge that looked like a water drop. The main task is completed. Get a random skill machine. The number of draws is 3. Just when Zhu Xiandao just got the badge, the voice of the system came to his mind. Similarly, the gym leader took out 3 skill machines again and asked Zhu Xiandao to randomly choose one. After thinking about it, Zhu Xiandao also chose Qiyu and his own black and white. Although he is an expert in electricity, if he learns to pray for rain, he can let his electricity go up to the next level. Most patients are also very helpless. Although they can have more advanced elves, they really can't use them for such a novice. After all, he just wants to test Zhu Xiandao's strength. If he takes out the highest level elves, it will hit the other party's self-confidence. And even if I want to do this, it is not in accordance with the rules. If I really do this, we may even be reported by others, and my position as the director may even be lost. The 3 protagonists of Hainan also went to the Pokémon Center, restored their Pokémons, and returned to the hotel. After packing up, they came to the hotel restaurant. Where are we going next? Zhu Xiandao asked again. It doesn't matter where I go, Zhang Nap, you decide. Zhu Feng next to him shook his head. For him, as long as he can collect all the badges to participate in the national conference, it will be fine. As for where to collect badges, it really doesn't make any difference to Zhu Feng. Or we go to Guangdong. Guangdong is the closest to here, and Guangdong is also a very good big city. Zhang Na thought about it and spoke again. He not only needs to find a good tourist attraction, but also a gym. A big city like Guangdong is not only a good tourist attraction, but also has a gym. It can be said that it can satisfy his travel and complete the challenge of Zhu Xiandao and Zhu Feng. It's alright. Zhu Xiandao nodded after hearing it. It didn't matter to Zhu Xiandao where the challenge was, since his goal was just to collect badges. When are we leaving? Chapter 31 Make the elves more beautiful. The challenge has just ended. Let's play here for 2 more days. Before Zhang Na could say anything, Zhu Feng next to her spoke first. After all, her own Hakran had just broken through and was still in the training stage, so she didn't want to rush on the road in such a hurry. I will also go to the wild training in the next few days. My Hakran will be outside and may also camp in the next few days. I'll trouble you with the food then. Zhu Fenghao said unceremoniously, looking at Zhu Xiandao's eyes, which was obviously an Annie. Okay, I know, I will prepare it here. Zhu Xiandao said with a headache. After a simple lunch, the two returned to the room. They said they wanted to take a nap, and Zhu Xiandao also returned to his room. Zhu Xiandao took a look and found that his number of draws had reached 5 times. Zhu Xiandao also decided to use all 5 drawers. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the sharp claw. The system's prompt sounded in Zhu Xiandao's mind, and Zhu Xiandao's eyes lit up. This is a special equipment that can be used by any fighting Malay elf. And it just so happened that his own disaster elf was also a Malay combat type. For example, this sharp claw can make the disaster elf's attack even better. Congratulations to the host for getting the explosion rate doubled. Originally, Zhu Xiandao was very happy when he heard that the explosion rate increased. When he saw that the explosion rate was only 2, Zhu Xiandao frowned. Congratulations to the host for getting the training card multiplied by 2, the tracking card multiplied by 1, and the method of making a yellow energy block 1. After seeing the things he got from the lottery, Zhu Xiandao was even more delighted. Especially the yellow energy block is a good thing. After all, in this world, energy blocks are used by elves, and its effect is very good. Use the random skill machine. Congratulations to the host for getting a surfing skill. After seeing the system's prompt, Zhu Xiandao's face was even more delighted. This time, the gym has obtained 2 more learning skills, which can make his elves stronger. Then Zhu Xiandao also gave all the equipment and skills he got to his elves. Just when Zhu Xiandao was happy, the elf egg next to him suddenly emitted a faint light. After seeing this ray of light, Zhu Xiandao's face was filled with more joy. This ray of light represented Zhu Xiandao, but it was clear. This also meant that the elf in this elf egg was about to be born. So at this moment, Zhu Xiandao also suddenly felt that there was a wave of life coming from the elf egg, which made you feel that the life wave was instantly connected to yourself. It was uncomfortable to feel a sense of flesh and blood, as if it was your own blood. It was difficult to know directly that Jinling was more dependent on the master's clothes, and he regarded himself as a father. Zhu Xiandao also knew that, although the elf in the sword spirit belt had consciousness, it did not mean that he would speak in the short term, but he could already hear himself speak. Just like a fetus in the belly, it generally has its own consciousness. Now it is in the stage of communication, which can increase more trust and emotion. On the other side, after waking up, the 2 beauties also planned to go shopping and buy some things, and Zhu Xiandao followed them. After all, when he thought about his own field training, he wanted to be a cook. Zhu Xiandao naturally had to prepare some things. The 2 girls were also a little surprised. After all, in their opinion, a boring person like Zhu Xiandao would not take the initiative to accompany them shopping. Zhu Xiandao was not simple either. He just wanted to buy some food notes. He had obtained the method of making energy blocks, so he naturally had to buy some materials. In addition, the stupid fish in the elf egg was about to be born. Zhu Xiandao also planned to prepare some energy blocks, intending to let the stupid fish accept a good condition from birth. Although the things needed were very expensive, Zhu Xiandao still had some savings. However, after buying some basic materials, Zhu Xiandao's savings shrank by more than half in an instant. Male Zhu Xiandao was also very troubled. If he was also a rich second generation, how great it would be. At that time, he could buy whatever he wanted, and there was no need to be so troublesome, and he needed to make it himself. Why did you buy so many materials? Zhang Na looked at Zhu Xiandao buying all kinds of materials, and was also puzzled. After all, Zhu Xiandao's behavior seemed too weird to him. If you really need to buy the finished product directly, wouldn't it be more convenient? I plan to make some energy cubes. Zhu Xiandao smiled slightly. Although Zhu Xiandao also wanted to buy some finished energy cubes, it would be more economical to make them by himself. His conditions were not as good as the 2 beauties in front of him, so he would save as much as he could. What? Are you kidding me? Zhu Feng beside him also looked at Zhu Xiandao with wide eyes. You should know that the production of energy cubes is extremely complicated. Although there are many energy cubes in this world, those who can make energy cubes are truly rare elites. I didn't expect you to make energy cubes. Now I know why your elves are upgraded so quickly. Zhang Na suddenly spoke before. He felt that Zhu Xiandao's elves were upgraded too quickly. Now that he knew that Zhu Xiandao could also make energy cubes, he was no longer so surprised. Even Zhu Xiandao did not explain, so he naturally could not say that the reason why his business was upgraded so quickly was not because of energy cubes, but because of plugins. Can you make some and sell them to me? Of course I won't treat you unfairly. I will give you every penny. Zhu Feng suddenly spoke up. After hearing what Zhu Feng said, Zhu Xiandao suddenly thought about why he hadn't thought of it before. Although he had no money, he had a rich and beautiful woman around him who could make energy cubes and sell them to him, so he could make a profit. He could also make up for his losses. Of course, no problem, but I don't have money to buy materials now. If you need them, you can buy them yourself. After the materials are made, I will sell them to you at a low price. After thinking about it, Zhu Xiandao spoke up again and suggested that she probably couldn't buy much materials under the current conditions, and she also needed to save money for other purposes. No problem. Zhu Feng said nonchalantly. You have to make energy cubes for me, and I want to make my elves more beautiful. Zhang Na next to him also spoke up. Chapter 32 Evolutionary Conditions. On the other side, Zhu Xiandao also followed the crowd to start shopping. There were also two white and rich beauties who did not hesitate at all. They also bought a lot of materials that Zhu Xiandao needed, and even bought a lot of tools. After they returned to the hotel, Zhu Xiandao also took these materials back to my own hotel and began to make energy cubes. Zhu Xiandao's production method can be said to be given by the system, and it can be said to be his own exclusive secret recipe. No one in this world has the same production method as himself. And although there are many energy cubes of the same level as himself, he can solve the problem that he can be sure that the energy cubes he made are definitely much stronger than those made by others in terms of effect, and it is even possible to be one level higher. When he first started making it, Zhu Xiandao was not very skilled and naturally failed several times. As the number of failures increased, Zhu Xiandao's movements became more and more skilled. His movements became faster and faster, and his success rate became higher and higher. After working for nearly 2 or 3 hours, Zhu Xiandao finally made several yellow energy cubes. When I was having dinner, Zhu Xiandao also took out the yellow cubes he had made, and found that his elves also liked them very much, and they could be full with just a few. Zhu Xiandao was not idle either. He worked all night and harvested a lot. He made a lot of energy blocks. Most of the blocks were yellow. Although there were some blue blocks, they were very few. Zhu Xiandao directly distributed these good energy blocks to Bin Benaiu. The next morning, after getting up, Zhu Xiandao came to the backyard of the hotel. Zhu Xiandao also distributed the energy blocks he made to the two people next to him. Zhu Xiandao distributed some yellow energy blocks to them. As for the number of blue blocks, there were few, so the rest were left for Bin Benaiu. How is the effect? Zhu Feng and Side also looked at Zhu Xiandao with some doubts. Obviously, the production of energy blocks is not simple. Zhu Xiandao is still a little worried at his age. Don't worry, the effect is absolutely good, much stronger than those on the market. You will know the effect after trying it once. Zhu Xiandao patted his chest confidently and guaranteed. Seeing Zhu Xiandao so confident, Zhu Feng was also a little confused, but after such a long time of getting along, Zhu Feng also knew that Zhu Xiandao was naturally not the kind of person who lied, let alone the kind of arrogant person. And she also chose to believe Zhu Xiandao again, and finally picked up the energy cube that Zhu Xiandao gave her. Seeing that her elf only ate 2 or 3 and then stopped, Zhu Feng was also a little surprised. It seems that the effect is also very good. My elves like it very much. Zhu Feng is also very familiar with her elves, and Zhu Feng can still tell whether the elves like the energy cubes in front of them. Obviously, the energy cubes that Zhu Xiandao took out are indeed of good quality. Zhang Na, who was next to her, breathed a sigh of sourness after seeing it, and then took out the energy cube that Zhu Xiandao gave her, and distributed it to her elves. Like it, if you need it in the future, you can prepare the materials yourself. Zhu Xiandao, while speaking, also took out the elf egg of the stupid fish next to it, and stroked it carefully with his hand, and at the same time he was still talking to himself. Zhu Xiandao's actions made Zhang Na and Zhang Er confused. They really didn't know why Zhu Xiandao was holding the elf egg like a fool. Could it be that Zhu Xiandao liked this elf so much, or did Zhu Xiandao have some hobbies? I really want to know what kind of elf will appear in your elf egg. Zhang Na next to him changed the subject. After all, there were some things he really couldn't ask Zhu Xiandao's weird actions, and even he was embarrassed to watch. Who knows what kind of elf will appear in the elf egg? Zhu Feng shook his head. After all, there was no way to distinguish what kind of business would appear in the elf egg in this world. It could be a very powerful elf, or it could be a very weak elf. Of course, in the world like this, powerful elves are already very rare. Even if they have offspring elf eggs, they will never appear in the sight of ordinary people. In their opinion, Zhu Xiandao's choice of love for such an elf was simply a stupid act. After all, there was an unknown creature inside, and how high his talent synthesis would be was completely random. A stupid fish will emerge from it, the most beautiful elf in the world. Zhu Xiandao said confidently, as if he already knew what the elf in this elf egg was. You are not kidding me, are you? Do you have a way to identify elf eggs? Zhang Na widened her eyes, as if you were kidding me. After all, when Zhu Xiandao said this, it is estimated that only fools in the world would believe him. Everyone knows that there is no way to tell what kind of elf is hidden in the elf egg, and no one knows it at all. Even if you know that there is a stupid fish inside, you also know that it is very difficult for him to evolve. Do you know the conditions for his evolution, and can meet them? Zhu Feng also spoke suddenly. He also had some knowledge of the stupid fish. Although it is the most beautiful creature in the world, its evolution conditions are difficult in themselves, and many people do not know the evolution conditions of the stupid fish. But everyone knows that it is very difficult for the stupid fish to purify. Zhu Xiandao was also shocked, as if he had never thought about this problem before, and he seemed to really know how to make the stupid fish evolve. I really don't know. Then how dare you raise him? Zhu Feng looked at Zhu Xiandao in shock. I thought Zhu Xiandao knew there was a stupid fish hidden in here, and he also knew the evolutionary conditions of the stupid fish, so Zhu Xiandao was so confident. But now looking at Zhu Xiandao's expression, Zhu Xiandao didn't know the evolution method at all. But now seeing that Zhu Xiandao didn't even know the evolutionary conditions of the stupid fish, doesn't it mean that, even if the stupid fish is really hatched, Zhu Xiandao can't make it evolve? Then do you know? Zhu Xiandao also turned his head and thought about Zhu Feng next to him and asked. In Zhu Xiandao's view, a superfamily like Zhu Feng should have the evolutionary conditions of the stupid fish, and also know the evolutionary methods of distinguishing fish. Chapter 33 Mission Release. No, are you kidding me? Now everyone knows that, if Squidward wants to evolve into Milotic, the conditions are so difficult that it can only rely on luck. Until now, no one knows what the conditions are for Squidward to evolve into Milotic. Even those trainers who have Milotic don't know at all. Zhu Feng also shook his head. He also had a great understanding of the Pokémon in this world, but there were some Pokémon in this world that had high conditions for evolution. It was not difficult to have high evolution conditions, because the higher the evolution conditions, the greater the achievement. But there were some Pokémon in this world that didn't even know the conditions for their evolution. With such a business, ordinary people would not dare to raise them. Zhu Xiandao was also confused. What was going on? At first, as Zhu Xiandao asked, Zhu Xiandao finally figured it out. It turned out that everyone in this world didn't even know that Squidward could evolve into Milotic at the beginning. And there was a trainer who was lucky enough to get an evolved Milotic and successfully gave birth to a Pokémon egg, and it was Squidward that emerged from the egg. And from then on, everyone knew that Milotic evolved from Squidward. After that, everyone started to catch stupid fish like crazy. At that moment, all the stupid fish in the world were about to be caught. Although there were many trainers who got stupid fish, there were very few trainers who successfully evolved stupid fish into Milotica. Moreover, those trainers who successfully evolved stupid fish did not know what the evolution conditions of stupid fish were. It can be said that it was all luck. Although there are many trainers who have stupid fish, it is extremely rare to be able to successfully evolve it into Milotica. In other words, its rarity has even reached the top level in the world. My Haxorus is already a rare Pokémon, but Milotica is even rarer than my Haxorus. Zhu Feng shook his head and said that as for how to evolve stupid fish, He really had no idea or method. Zhu Xiandao was also speechless. If he really didn't know the evolution conditions, why did he keep this stupid fish? Keeping a stupid fish that could never evolve successfully would greatly reduce its combat effectiveness. And stupid fish doesn't look good. It can be said that before the evolution, the clumsy fish had no advantages in terms of combat ability or appearance. However, after the evolution of the clumsy fish, there will be a drastic change in appearance and combat ability. I said, do you really not know? Zhu Feng still looked at Zhu Xiandao in confusion. In Zhu Feng's opinion, Zhu Xiandao should know the information, but did not tell him. Of course, there is another possibility, that is, Zhu Xiandao really does not know the evolution method of the clumsy fish. After all, the world has not yet announced how to evolve the clumsy fish. Zhu Xiandao naturally knows how to evolve. After all, he has watched anime, and naturally knows the evolution method of every elf in this world. And Zhu Xiandao now knows that, although the evolution conditions of Milotic are harsh, once he succeeds in evolving, his charm will be shared countless times, and even have a fatal attraction for any woman. Zhu Xiandao also knows that some things are better not to be announced. After all, there are more than 1 billion people in this world. If the evolution conditions of Venus are announced, the consequences will be unimaginable. I really don't know. After thinking about this, Zhu Xiandao shook his head. After seeing Zhu Xiandao's attitude, Zhu Feng no longer hesitated. Whether Zhu Xiandao knew or not, he did not intend to continue asking. I plan to train my own business today. You wait for my notification. I will notify you when I find a good place. Zhu Xiandao nodded. After all, he also wanted to start training his own elves. After all, in this world, elves can do more things, only when they are strong. Zhu Xiandao did not want to waste his time, and wanted to use all his energy on the elves. After a simple breakfast, he hoped to go out, to find a place directly. Zhang Na also followed Zhu Feng. Male Zhu Xiandao returned to the hotel. After all, he did not sleep well last night. He was busy all night. Now Zhu Xiandao planned to have a good sleep, to replenish his spirit and physical strength. Just when Zhu Xiandao just lay down, and closed his eyes, and was about to go to sleep, the system suddenly popped up again. Side quest released. Hearing the voice of the system, Zhu Xiandao also opened his eyes. Why did he have to release the task at this time? However, Zhu Xiandao still opened the system. He wanted to know what the task was. You know, the last time such a side task was launched was during the beach competition. This time, he did nothing but wanted to have a good sleep, and he was able to trigger the task. Task 1, rush to Xianshan Bay before 0000 hours tonight. The specific location has been sent. Please open the system map to check. After the task is completed, your physical fitness will be improved by 1 level. Task 2 will be opened after completing task 1. Once the task starts, you cannot give up halfway, otherwise all previous rewards will be taken back. Looking at the system prompt, Zhu Xiandao was even more at a loss. What on earth is going on? It's actually a serial task. In other words, if Zhu Xiandao doesn't accept the task and doesn't care about it, he won't get any rewards. But if he accepts this task, it means that if he fails to complete one of the links after this task, all previous rewards will disappear. Zhu Xiandao was also very hesitant. After all, task 1 alone can improve his physical fitness, and this reward is already very generous. As for what the rewards are later, Zhu Xiandao doesn't know, but Zhu Xiandao knows that the rewards later will definitely not be worse than this. Similarly, Zhu Xiandao didn't know how difficult the tasks would be, but he really wanted these rewards. Zhu Xiandao thought, you can't get a tiger without risking it. Although the task was difficult, the rewards were definitely not low. If he could really get them, his combat effectiveness would definitely increase several times. Thinking of this, Zhu Xiandao decided to complete these tasks. Although he didn't know how difficult the tasks would be, he still wanted to give it a try. Chapter 34 This is a divine beast. There were still 12 hours before the mission, so Zhu Xiandao planned to take a nap first, and wait until the time was up, before accepting the mission. After resting for an afternoon, Zhu Xiandao arrived at the designated location according to the system's profession at night. This was the Bay of Xianshan Mountain, and it was even more deserted at this time, with no one to be seen. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing the mission. The host's physical fitness has improved. The current physical fitness level is 4. Task 2 is started. Just as the system finished speaking, Zhu Xiandao instantly felt his body. Suddenly, a stream of airflow appeared inside his body, and it kept wandering in his body. When they wandered to a place, Zhu Xiandao could feel that his body had been strengthened a lot. After a few breaths, Zhu Xiandao slowly opened his eyes. He found that his vision had become better, his senses had become more acute, and even the rustling sound of the wind around him could be heard clearly by Zhu Xiandao. Eliminate or repel the enemies that appear from the sea before 0 hours. The mission is completed. The mind reading level is increased by 1. The number of draws is multiplied by 3. And the mission 3 is started. Eliminate the enemies that appear. Who are they? Humans or elves? Zhu Xiandao was also confused. The sea seemed calm. How could there be enemies? It's human. The system's voice sounded again. Hearing the system's voice, Zhu Xiandao was also shocked. The system asked him to kill each other. No wonder the reward was so generous. This was at the cost of human life. Zhu Xiandao looked at the mission issued by the system again. The system just said to eliminate or repel. No matter which option was chosen, it would be enough. That is to say, as long as he could repel the other party, it would be enough. Calm down. This time, I must complete the mission. At worst, the mission will fail, but I must not lose my life here. Zhu Xiandao took a deep breath and calmed himself down. After all, although he didn't think about killing people, he just wanted to repel the other party. But Zhu Xiandao didn't know what the enemy was thinking. Zhu Xiandao looked at the time. It was 10 o'clock in the evening. There were still 2 hours before the mission. During this time, Zhu Xiandao could still make some preparations. Zhu Xiandao immediately opened his backpack and checked what tools he had available, but it seemed that there was nothing worth using. They were all some ingredients he had bought before, such as pepper, chili powder, salt, MSG, etc. Looking at these things in his hand, Zhu Xiandao was even more troubled. These things seemed to be useless. Forget it, no matter what, let's arrange some lines first. What if they can work? Zhu Xiandao thought about it and decided to put them to use. Finally, he started to get busy. First, he dug a few traps on the ground that people could fall into and sprinkled some powder on them and then covered them with some branches. Of course, if it was during the day, such a trap could indeed be seen through at a glance, but on this deserted coast at night, there was not even a light, so it was even more difficult to pay attention. Even the traps that Zhu Xiandao had just set up, he couldn't remember the exact location of some of them, not to mention the defenseless enemies. After setting up a lot of traps, Zhu Xiandao also planned to see if there was anything else he could do, but at this moment, Zhu Xiandao suddenly trembled all over, thinking that he seemed to sense a pair of eyes staring at him. Zhu Xiandao turned around in a flash, but just as he turned around, a figure in the distance seemed to be frightened and disappeared with a whoosh. Although the other party only appeared for a moment, Zhu Xiandao still clearly captured the other party's figure. Tap Finfin. The moment he saw the name at the beginning, he trembled all over. This is not an elf, this is simply a mythical beast. This level of existence can be said to be standing at the top of the world. Not only is it powerful but also rare. It can be said that this kind of mythical beast can only be a legend in front of humans. Everyone has heard of the legend of the mythical beast, but there are really few people who have actually seen the mythical beast. At this time, Zhu Xiandao trembled all over. When he thought of the tasks issued by the system and the discomfort of the beast he had just encountered, he suddenly felt as if he had encountered something extraordinary. Although he didn't know who the enemy was this time, he knew how terrible the opponent's fighting power was without thinking about it. At that moment, Zhu Xiandao even had a feeling of wanting to give up. Zhu Xiandao was also a little hesitant. After all, in this world, although he had a system, he should not be considered the protagonist. If he was injured or failed in the battle, he would really die. And with his current fighting power, there are too many people in this world who can kill him. If the opponent is really strong enough that he can't resist, what will be the consequences? You don't have to think about it. If the opponent's purpose is related to the beast, then the opponent will definitely kill him in order to prevent this news from getting away. But after thinking about it, Zhu Xiandao must still fight. After all, he must fight to seek wealth and honor. Come out a black and white disaster elf, Bibi Bird. Zhu Xiandao also immediately summoned all the elves he had. After the 3 elves appeared, they looked at Zhu Xiandao with a puzzled look, as if wondering why Zhu Xiandao summoned them in the middle of the night in the deserted place. Everyone be careful, there may be a life and death struggle later. At that time, you must not leave any of them behind, and use the most ruthless moves. After Zhu Xiandao reminded us for a minute, he also carefully observed everything around him, and was even more alert, observing everything around him with vigilance. After about 20 minutes, a faint light finally appeared on the calm sea. Zhu Xiandao knew that it was the light. Be careful, the enemy will appear soon, Zhu Xiandao said, while hiding behind a tree with his elves. Fortunately, although this is a beach, the environment here is still very suitable for concealment. Zhu Xiandao also put the stupid fish elf egg in my own backpack. After all, if I still hold the elf egg in this situation, the consequences will be disastrous. Then I saw the lights not far away getting closer and closer, and soon 2 small yachts stopped on the shore not far from Zhu Xiandao. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 The Devil is Coming. Wow wow wow. 6 people came down from the boat immediately, and one of them said to the others. Zhu Xiandao was even more upset when he heard it. It turned out to be a group of devils. Originally, Zhu Xiandao was thinking that killing people like this was not good. But now, Zhu Xiandao thought that it was better to kill devils like this. Finally, Zhu Xiandao took out a translator from his backpack and put it on his ear. After all, the technology in this world is still very advanced, even more advanced than in his previous life. However, looking at the 6 people in front of him, Zhu Xiandao frowned slightly. He had never thought that the other party would send so many people. Although he had set up several traps just now, there were only 4. Zhu Xiandao also made a gesture to the black and white and disaster elves next to him, and the other 2 elves nodded, as if they had a telepathic connection. After I'm born, you will attack immediately. Use lightning to attack, and those who don't fall into the trap, remember, attack the head. The Pidgeot next to him also nodded. At this time, the 6 devils who came down from the boat were getting closer and closer to Zhu Xiandao. Shanteng, have you found him? One of the men's voices entered Zhu Xiandao's ears through the translator. That guy has a tracker I placed on him. Don't worry, he won't be able to get rid of it in a short time. According to the navigation, that guy's nearby. Let's search carefully. Very good, find him quickly. As long as we find him, we will have made great contributions to our empire. Those people also said excitedly. After Zhu Xiandao heard their conversation, he finally understood that their purpose was to capture Chi. Zhu Xiandao was also a little shocked. If it was someone from China, Zhu Xiandao might not necessarily kill him, but if a few foreign devils were really captured by them, wouldn't it mean that, if they really captured the divine beast, it would greatly enhance the combat effectiveness of their country? Zhu Xiandao didn't want to see this happen. Plop plop. The devils didn't think that someone would set a trap here. After all, their only target was the divine beast. Without paying attention, they fell into the trap set by Zhu Xiandao in an instant. What's going on? Why is there a trap here? What is this? My eye. Zhu Xiandao, who was hiding in the dark, also had a glare. Kill them. Before the remaining 2 people could come to their senses, they heard Zhu Xiandao's roar, followed by a huge flash of lightning that instantly split into 6 flashes of lightning, aiming at each of them. Nadarino, block the attack. One of the people who was not trapped also reacted quickly and quickly took out a Pokeball and threw it into the air. The remaining person also came to his senses and immediately took out his Pokeball, but just as he was about to throw it, his eyes suddenly went black. I don't know when a heavy object hit his head from behind, hitting it hard. The attack also directly hit the 4 people who fell into the trap, and the screams came from the trap. On the other side, there was a white figure, shuttling back and forth on the beach, releasing various skills continuously, and the few people who had fallen into the trap and wanted to fight back were overwhelmed at this time, and there was no room for fighting back. The remaining person waved his hand and summoned 2 elves again. Use 100,000 volt shadow to sneak attack. Zhu Xiandao issued the order quickly. Whoever can seize the opportunity at this time will win. Zhu Xiandao knew very well that this was a life and death battle. It was either you or me. If Zhu Xiandao still showed mercy at this time, he would definitely be the one to die. Who are you? Why did you attack us? The other party also spoke loudly in not very fluent Chinese, with a trace of panic on his face. The other party also never thought that the other party would actually attack him, and had already set up a trap, as if he knew his actions well. You have to know that their actions this time were random, and even they didn't know where the beast would run to. How could the other party set up a trap here in advance? I just don't like you little devils. I'll kill one if I see one. Zhu Xiandao said as he hit the other party's head directly with the hammer. There was a loud bang, and the other party fell to the ground unconscious. At this time, Zhu Xiandao was holding a sledgehammer in his hand, looking very proud. He did not expect that the sledgehammer was so easy to use, and he could kill one person with one hammer. What should I do now? Do I really have to kill them? Looking at the people in front of him, Zhu Xiandao began to worry about how to knock them out. Although they had already done it, it would not be a simple matter to kill them all. After all, Zhu Xiandao did not know how to deal with their bodies now, and Zhu Xiandao did not know if he could do it. No matter what, it was a life after another. Forget it, freeze them all into ice cubes, and let the police deal with it. I will not care about the rest. As Zhu Xiandao said, he took out something similar to a navigation from their bodies, and then froze them into ice cubes. After handling the scene, Zhu Xiandao also cleaned up all the traces he left behind. Fortunately, this was the beach, and it was very easy to deal with his traces. After finishing the work, Zhu Xiandao took another look at the 3 Pokémons lying on the ground. Zhu Xiandao also took a look at them calmly. Nidorino, talent level 3, level 35. Zhu Xiandao just took a look at it calmly, and took out the Pokeball without hesitation to capture it. How could he leave such a good thing to others? Now that he has seen it, it is his now. This time there is an extra gain, and Zhu Xiandao is also very satisfied. After dealing with all the traces, the other party's mobile phone directly called and said that there was a criminal here. After doing all this, Zhu Xiandao also wiped the traces on the mobile phone and threw it directly into the sea. Anyway, even if the police come, they can't find the mobile phone. Even if they wait until they can salvage the mobile phone from the sea, they can't find any evidence. Chapter 36 New Partner. They came pretty fast. After leaving, not many people later, Zhu Xiandao heard the sirens in the distance. He didn't expect the police to come so fast. Congratulations on completing the task. Your mind reading skill level has been upgraded by 1. You are now at level 3. You have received 3 lucky draws. Task 3 is now open. After the system's prompt sounded, Zhu Xiandao knew that his task was completed. Task 3. Find the divine beast Capuchichi before dawn and pass this test to get a reward and get 3 lucky draws. Looking at the tasks issued by the system, Zhu Xiandao was also a little confused. What would the divine beast's reward be? But where should I go to find him? Zhu Xiandao was also having a headache at this time. No matter what he said about the other party, if the divine beast wanted to escape and hide, Zhu Xiandao didn't think he could catch up with him. There is also a tracking card. So that's it. He suddenly remembered that there was a tracking card in his system backpack that he could use. Thinking of this, Zhu Xiandao suddenly became excited. It seemed that he could still complete the task. After all, as long as there was a tracking card, the other party could not escape the control of the system. However, Zhu Xiandao also released his 3 elves directly and finally took out the Nidorino he had just harvested. You 3 help me keep an eye on it. I plan to convince this guy to be our partner, Zhu Xiandao said to his 3 elves. After all, it is not easy to convince him to become his partner, but he still has 3 elves around him, which is enough to deal with him. Then Zhu Xiandao waved his hand, and Nidorino appeared in front of Zhu Xiandao, and he was covered in wounds. The moment he just appeared, he looked at Zhu Xiandao like a police officer, as if he would enter the battle at any time. But he looked at the 3 elves Nidorino around him again, and his face was even more panicked. You don't need to be afraid. I just want to have a good talk with you this time. Zhu Xiandao also showed a gentle smile. Looking at Zhu Xiandao's smile, I don't know why Nidorino instantly felt that his mood was much more relaxed, but he still looked at Zhu Xiandao very vigilantly. Your previous partner left you and ran away, so I brought you here. Seeing Zhu Xiandao speak without blushing or beating his heart, he said. Hearing Zhu Xiandao's words, the 3 elves around him looked at Zhu Xiandao with disdain. Zhu Xiandao originally thought that Nidorino would be very disappointed after hearing the news, but he didn't expect that he didn't look disappointed at all, not even a little sad, and his guard was also relaxed a lot. Don't you care? Your partner left you and ran away. Zhu Xiandao looked at Nidorino in front of him in confusion. Woo woo. I believe what you said, because I don't want to follow him. He is not good to me at all. As he spoke, Nidorino showed a sad expression, as if he was a child who was abducted. Zhu Xiandao's mouth twitched. He didn't expect there would be such a thing. It seems that it is still very simple for him to regain the Nidorino in front of him. That's really embarrassing for you. Zhu Xiandao walked forward to heal Nidorino, and the other party did not resist at all. Just let Zhu Xiandao do what he wanted. How about being our partner? Zhu Xiandao spoke again. After Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, Nidorino also raised his head and stared at Zhu Xiandao for 3 full seconds. Will you be good to me? Of course, you will be my partner in the future, and I promise you that I will be very good to you. As Zhu Xiandao spoke, he even took out a top quality moonstone, and the moment the moonstone was just taken out, Nidorino was instantly attracted. He looked at the moonstone with a look of desire. When he thought of his previous treatment, he suddenly felt that Zhu Xiandao would definitely treat him better. I promise you. Then from today on you are my partner. My name is Zhu Xiandao. After Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, he introduced the other 3 elves. Well, he also nodded to the 3 elves, and they were considered to have met. Finally, he looked at the moonstone in Zhu Xiandao's hand with desire, as if he wanted it very much. As my partner, this is our meeting gift. Zhu Xiandao smiled slightly, and then threw the stone in his hand to Nidorino. Nidorino immediately took the moonstone in his mouth, and then a dazzling light came out of his body. Looking at the elves that were evolving, Zhu Xiandao also took out the previous Pokeball. He threw it directly at the feet of the disaster Pokémon. Destroy it. Zhu Xiandao didn't want to use the things that the little ghost had used. Then he saw those people raise their feet and stepped lightly, and the Pokeball was instantly crushed. It seems that I have to replace the Pokeball too. The defense of ordinary Pokeballs is too fragile, Zhu Xiandao said thoughtfully. After all, if the Pokeball is destroyed, it means that the Pokémon has become ownerless and can be conquered by others. But as long as your Pokeball is still there, it is still your Pokémon, as long as the other party trusts you enough. Then Zhu Xiandao doesn't need to worry about his rebellion. After a moonstone went down, Nidorino also evolved directly into Nidoking. And Zhu Xiandao also took out a luxury ball and put it directly in front of Nidoking. Nidoking took a look and then gently touched the luxurious Pokeball. With his eyes slanted, a flash of white light flashed, and Nidoking disappeared on the spot. Zhu Xiandao was also filled with joy. After all, it was something that Zhu Xiandao had never expected to capture so easily. Before, Zhu Xiandao thought that if he wanted to capture the Pokeball, he would have to spend some effort, but he didn't expect that the other party was originally dissatisfied with his partner. Zhu Xiandao was also very strange. After all, as his own Pokémon, everyone should treat it well. In a situation like this, Zhu Xiandao felt that it was estimated that there would be no 1 out of 10,000 people, and his luck was pretty good. He actually encountered such a strange thing. Congratulations on completing the mission, and you get a luxurious ball. At this moment, the voice of the system also sounded in Zhu Xiandao's mind. After doing all this, Zhu Xiandao also came back to his senses, and he also knew that he should continue to do new tasks. Use the tracking card target, Kabukichi. Tracking started, tracking completed. Then a map appeared in Zhu Xiandao's mind. The map showed that the other party was less than 1 kilometer away from him. Chapter 37 Your Award. It's so close to me, but I didn't notice it. Zhu Xiandao was also a little surprised. Then Zhu Xiandao looked at the map and found that the other party was in the forest not far away. Male Zhu Xiandao also walked slowly into the forest. As soon as he entered the forest, a thick fog appeared. Pippy bird hurricane. Zhu Xiandao said casually. After using the hurricane, the thick fog still did not dissipate, which shows how large the range of the thick fog is. After doing all this, Zhu Xiandao also took back the elves and could only use the flashlight to slowly approach the target. Zhu Xiandao was also walking in the thick fog. I don't know how long it took. Zhu Xiandao suddenly felt that his vision became blurred. Not only that, his brain was still groggy, and a feeling of confusion and irritability suddenly arose. Zhu Xiandao even had a feeling that he wanted to end his life. Then at this moment, a mysterious power suddenly appeared in Zhu Xiandao's heart, calming all of Zhu Xiandao's emotions. What is going on? Zhu Xiandao, who came back to his senses, also looked around in confusion. If the system hadn't helped him clear his negative state in time, he might have died here. Zhu Xiandao took a look at the map and was surprised to find that he had deviated from the original direction. Zhu Xiandao was immediately confused. After all, the map was in his mind. Even if he closed his eyes, he would never get the direction wrong. Could this be the test of the beast? Zhu Xiandao said doubtfully. After all, if there was no system, ordinary people would never be able to get here. Then Zhu Xiandao also recalled the legend of Kapchichi. It can manipulate water resources at will, produce thick fog, and confuse the opponent and self-destruct. In addition, he can also create evolutionary water that purifies the body and mind, but you must pass his test to get it. In order to obtain the essence of water, many people will even challenge the thick fog produced by Kapchichi. Of course, some of them really need the essence of water, while others want to take Kapchichi for themselves. It is precisely because he has seen enough bad guys that Kapchichi has long disappeared from people's sight and no one knows where to hide. That is to say, this is a test he left for me. Only if I pass this test can I get his approval, right? Zhu Xiandao only realized what was going on at this time. After all, such a thick fog would kill any ordinary person. Fortunately, Zhu Xiandao had a system. Although the fog was all around him, it could also affect his spirit. However, Zhu Xiandao had a map target in his mind, but he had never moved. He didn't even need to pay attention to the surrounding environment, and he could move straight towards the target. As for the mental impact brought by the thick fog, the system could also help him understand it. You have calculated everything, but you probably wouldn't have expected that I have a plugin like the system. Zhu Xiandao also smiled slightly. After reading it, the system was still very useful to him. After walking for more than 20 minutes, when Zhu Xiandao appeared again, he had already appeared in an open space. When Zhu Xiandao walked out of the forest, the thick fog disappeared without a trace. I don't know how long it will take for someone to finally pass my test. At this time, a voice sounded in Zhu Xiandao's mind. He was also a little surprised, and then he looked up and looked around. When he entered the street, he saw an elf floating in the air in front of him, with moonlight behind him. Task 3 completed. Get 3 draws, and get the reward of the beast. Congratulations on completing my test, this is my reward for you. And that figure just waved his hand, and then a white light flashed. Kapukiki also saw everything Zhu Xiandao did before. In any case, Zhu Xiandao solved the problem for himself, and passed his test. Kapukiki's impression of Zhu Xiandao was much better. After a flash of white light, Zhu Xiandao seemed to have come to a pale world. In this world, it was warm everywhere. Zhu Xiandao could even feel the incomparable peace and tranquility in his heart. Accept the baptism of the water of the former glory, and the physical fitness level will be improved by 1. The current level is 5. I don't know how long it took, and the voice of the system sounded in Zhu Xiandao's mind. Zhu Xiandao could also feel that his physical fitness was getting stronger and stronger, even surpassing ordinary people. When Zhu Xiandao opened his eyes, he found that Kapukiki was holding an egg. After seeing the egg, Zhu Xiandao was even more shocked. Wasn't that the egg of the stupid fish in his backpack? How could it be in his hand? That's my thing, Zhu Xiandao said immediately. Of course I know, but as a reward, I helped you purify it, and your child will be born soon. After Kapukiki finished speaking, he also let go of the egg in his hand, and then the egg floated towards Zhu Xiandao in the air. Zhu Xiandao held the stupid fish egg in his arms. Although the male Zhu Xiandao had a little worry just now, he was full of gratitude when he heard the words of the beast. Thank you. I haven't asked your name yet. Zhu Xiandao. We'll meet again in the future, Zhu Xiandao. The deep words just finished, then looked at Zhu Xiandao again, and then disappeared from Zhu Xiandao's sight. At this time, Zhu Xiandao also came back to his senses. Capture Chi gave him a feeling that he was too strong, worthy of being a divine beast. Zhu Xiandao knew that he was not the top among the divine beasts, nor was he a fighting divine beast. But even so, Zhu Xiandao had a feeling of being beaten, but it was really unimaginable. If it were those fighting divine beasts, how much stronger would they be? If he really fought against a divine beast one day, Zhu Xiandao couldn't even imagine that he had any possibility of winning. It seems that I still need to become stronger, otherwise the enemies I encounter in the future will become stronger and stronger, and there is really nothing I can do. Zhu Xiandao was also thinking seriously. After all, you will always encounter enemies in this world. Even if you don't want to be an enemy of others, it doesn't mean that others won't come to trouble you. So it's better to strengthen your own strength. There is no need to fight for anything, just to have the ability to protect yourself. Chapter 38 Born. Draw. Zhu Xiandao also took a look. He had drawn 6 times. Zhu Xiandao would not care about other things. This time, it was another great harvest. Congratulations on getting a sharp bird beak, a dragon tooth, a top grade lightstone, and 3 skill machines. They are all good equipment, but I can't use some of them. It seems that only dragon elves can use dragon teeth. Zhu Xiandao was also a headache. Although the system gave a lot of things, and even each one was not weak, there were still some things that he couldn't use. Can I sell it for some money or exchange it for something else? After thinking about it, Zhu Xiandao still felt that it would be better to exchange it for something more useful and valuable. Then Zhu Xiandao also directly grabbed 3 random skill cards. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Dragon Wave, Destruction Ray, and acting coquettishly. Looking at the skills he just got, Zhu Xiandao was speechless. What the hell is acting coquettishly? It seems that his experience was all about 4 males. Zhu Xiandao really couldn't imagine what it would be like for 4 males to act coquettishly in front of him. After loving Zhu Xiandao and distributing all the usable skills and equipment to my own heart, I was also thinking about myself. What should I do if I can't use the dragon's tooth? And I felt that the elf egg in Zhu Xiandao's arms began to glow. It's about to be born, Zhu Xiandao said with surprise, and then immediately took out a large basin, and then immediately poured out a few bottles of water. After all, the stupid fish is an elf living in the water, so naturally it is necessary to create a slightly better environment for it. Then the elf egg began to deform. After a white light lasted for a while, it slowly formed the shape of a fish. After the light faded, a stupid fish appeared in the basin in front of Zhu Xiandao. The stupid fish is also very petite at this time, and it looks like it is only the size of a palm. After the light faded, the stupid fish also opened his eyes, glanced at Zhu Xiandao in front of him, and then showed a happy expression, which looked like seeing his biological parents. Zhu Xiandao was delighted to see this, and then he put his hand on the head of the stupid fish, stroking it gently, as if he was stroking his own child. Chirp. The stupid fish called twice in a childish voice. Zhu Xiandao was even more confused after hearing this, because the stupid fish did not call dad, but mom. Why should he call himself mom, when he is a man? And the black and white next to him were rolling on the ground laughing. I'm not your mother, I'm a human. Zhu Xiandao spoke softly, and reasoned with the stupid fish. The stupid fish also looked at Zhu Xiandao in confusion, and after more than 10 seconds, it seemed to have figured something out and called again. Daddy. Hearing the stupid fish's words, Zhu Xiandao was even more speechless. Just as Zhu Xiandao was about to say something, he heard 3 unbridled laughs from behind me, and the sound was getting louder and louder. Zhu Xiandao was even more confused. These people just don't give him any face, right? Forget it, call it whatever you want. Zhu Xiandao didn't want to continue to talk about reason. It was estimated that this fish had just been born and didn't know anything about this world. Zhu Xiandao also turned his head and took a look. At this time, Henny Bei was laughing and twitching on the ground. His eyes were full of murderous intent. As if sensing the murderous intent in Zhu Xiandao's eyes, Henny Bei was stunned at this time, and then the unbridled laughter stopped abruptly. He turned his head hurriedly with a hint of embarrassment on his face. Then Zhu Xiandao took out the blue elf cube from his backpack. I'll give you something good to eat. The stupid fish ate 2 pieces without hesitation, as if he had no guard against anything Zhu Xiandao took out. After eating 2 pieces, he showed a satisfied expression. Seeing this, Zhu Xiandao took out a luxury ball again and easily subdued the stupid fish. Congratulations to the host for completing the subduing task and obtaining a luxury ball. Just after the recovery, the voice of the system sounded in Zhu Xiandao's mind. Zhu Xiandao also decided to buy a new luxury ball tomorrow and replace all his Pokeballs with luxury ones. One person can only have 6 Pokeballs at most, and I already have 5 now, and there is only 1 space left. Looking at the Pokeballs in his hand, Zhu Xiandao was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that his Pokeballs would be full so soon. After doing all this, Zhu Xiandao also found that the sky was slightly brighter. After packing up his things, Zhu Xiandao also began to walk out of the forest. Zhu Xiandao had just walked for a while, and then he heard 2 familiar voices, and the voices were full of doubts. Zhu Xiandao turned his head and found Zhang Nao and Zhu Feng with puzzled faces, looking at him in surprise. Why are you here? The 2 looked at Zhu Xiandao curiously. Originally, they thought Zhu Xiandao was still sleeping. After all, he had been working on the energy block for so long, and he should have a good rest. The 2 of them didn't want to disturb Zhu Xiandao. I just came here to capture a Pokémon, but why are you here? Zhu Xiandao was also curious, looking at the 2 beauties in front of him. We are looking for a place suitable for training. We found a good place last night, right over there, Zhang Da said, pointing to the camp not far away. Zhu Xiandao also looked in the direction Zhang Na pointed, and finally found that there was indeed a small simple tent not far away. Although it was a simple tent, it was full of luxury. It was quite far from where Zhu Xiandao dealt with the little devils last night. It seemed that the 2 of them didn't know what they did last night. We thought you were sleeping, and originally wanted you to rest for a while, but I didn't expect to see you here. If you had known earlier, I would have called you to join us. Zhang Na was also strange, looking at Zhu Xiandao, as if it was a very strange thing for Zhu Xiandao to appear here. Did you find anything unusual here last night? Zhu Xiandao also said tentatively. Whether it was the battle with the little devils last night or the sirens, or even the thick fog challenge arranged by the beast, these were all abnormal places. No, we were resting last night, and we just got up. Zhu Feng also shook his head. Chapter 39 Accelerating the Plan. Didn't you say you just got a Pokémon? What Pokémon did you get? Zhang Na also changed the subject. Although it was very strange for Zhu Xiandao to appear here, Zhu Xiandao himself said that he came here just to get a Pokémon. It is estimated that Zhu Xiandao saw a good Pokémon, so he ran all the way here. Just caught an Nidoking. What? Just an Nidoking? As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, Zhang Na looked at Zhu Xiandao with disgust. Zhu Xiandao was even more confused. How could he not know that the woman in front of him was a member of the Appearance Association? Only looking at appearance, Nidoking, although his strength is not bad, his appearance is really not good. Let's go together. It just so happens that we originally wanted to call you. Now it saves a lot of effort. Zhu Feng also said nonchalantly. After all, in the eyes of ordinary people, Nidoking is really a good Pokémon. And Zhu Xiandao was able to subdue such a Pokémon, although Zhu Feng also looked down on it, but he didn't say much. Okay, but my tent is broken. I originally wanted to buy another one. Otherwise, you can wait for me for a while and come back after I buy it. Zhu Xiandao thought for a while and said, no, we just happen to have 2 tents. I'll give you one when the time comes, and Sister Zhu and I can sleep together. Zhang Na shook her head. He knew Zhu Xiandao's conditions very well. There was no need to let Zhu Xiandao spend extra money. Anyway, 2 tents were enough for 3 people. Zhu Xiandao nodded and did not refuse. Anyway, it would not be bad for him to save a tent. Then the few people continued to move forward into the forest. Not long after, they came to the open space that Zhu Xiandao had just left. Zhu Xiandao's mouth twitched. He had just left not long ago, but he followed these 2 people again. But Zhu Xiandao also knew that these 2 people did not know what he had done last night. Zhang Da also looked at the Nidoking that Zhu Xiandao had subdued with increasing disdain, while Zhu Feng next to him was slightly thoughtful. By the way, do you need this thing? Zhu Xiandao suddenly thought of himself, but wanted to sell the useless dragon's fang for money or something else. And Zhu Feng seemed to have a dragon elf. Maybe he could use it, so he sold it to his companions, which was better than selling it to other people who didn't know it. If he sold it to the enemy, wouldn't he lose a lot? I just picked it up when I conquered Nidoking last night. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, the 2 looked at Zhu Xiandao as if he was a fool. Do you think we believe it? Zhang Na looked like she was kidding. Zhu Xiandao didn't know how to explain it and finally changed the subject. Do you want to name a price? If not, I will sell it to someone else. Although I don't need it, there are other people in my family who need it. How much do you want to sell it for? Zhu Feng said nonchalantly. Looking at the rich look of Zhu Xiandao, the corner of his mouth twitched. When can I buy whatever I want like him? It's too cool. By the way, do you have life orbs? I would like to exchange with you. Zhu Xiandao suddenly spoke up. Let me ask for the life orb for you. If you are not in a hurry, I can get one for you. Zhu Feng said again. Although the life orb is a relatively rare item, it can still be bought, and compared with the dragon's tooth, it is also a bargain for him. Do you have a luxury ball? Sell me one by the way. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, Zhu Feng took out a luxury ball and threw it to Zhu Xiandao. It's given to you for free. After all, you can't work for us for nothing. Zhu Xiandao did not refuse. He saved a sum of money and followed 2 local tyrants. It's good. These small amounts of money are not taken seriously by others. Hey, there is really a stupid fish in your elf egg. Zhang Na looked at the stupid fish summoned by Zhu Xiandao with an incredible look on her face. Before, I thought Zhu Xiandao was just joking, but I didn't expect that Zhu Xiandao was actually telling the truth. Zhu Feng beside him was also shocked. There were too many strange things about Zhu Xiandao. What's going on? How could Zyros and the others fail? In a room somewhere in China, a group of people gathered in a circle, looking serious. How is it possible? It shouldn't be. We can't get in touch. We know without thinking that they failed. Now is not the time to talk about this. What if they leak our information? Don't worry, I have sent people to investigate. I heard that they were caught by the police. What? Caught by the police? Are they trash? They were caught by the police. Don't worry, I have arranged people. They are probably dead now. Only dead people can keep the news. But it still caught the Chinese people. They have started to investigate what happened. Has the beast been caught? No, but the last place he appeared was near a beach. Speed up the plan. We must leave before the investigation is clear. On the other side, Zhu Xiandao and his group came to the airport again. This time they planned to go straight to their destination. In 2 or 3 days, Zhu Xiandao also let his elves learn new skills, and the proficiency of the skills has also improved a lot, and his proficiency with Nidoking has also improved. In addition, Chen Tiandao has been taking care of the newly born stupid fish, but the growth period of stupid fish is 1 week. During this week, he is like a good baby who can't move. I have news about the life orb you want. When I arrive in Yuching, I will exchange it with you. Okay. Chen Tiandao nodded. After all, it is best to get what you want. And Chen Tiandao really distributes their action efficiency. If it were me, I'm afraid that, even if I have money, I might not be able to buy the life orb. The life orb itself is a thing that can increase the skills of the elves. It is very rare. In addition, the demand is too large. Even if it appears on the market, it is estimated that it will be sold in seconds. After all, this kind of good thing, even if it is used a lot, it can definitely be sold. And I can also make a lot of money from it. No matter how you calculate it, as long as you can come across it, it is definitely a good thing to keep. Then several people disappeared at the airport and left on a plane. Chapter 40. Leave this to us. On the other side, in the police station of Jiangcheng, 2 men in suits suddenly walked in. Who are you? The police officer asked the 2 men in front of him. The 2 men took out a certificate from their clothes and handed it over. I'm the investigator sent by the higher-ups. You should have received the news, right? After checking the certificate, the police officer hurriedly said respectfully, so you two are the investigators sent by the higher-ups. We have been waiting for a long time. Now we are in charge of this case. Can you tell me the details of the information about those Japanese people? One of the men spoke up. We don't know what happened. Anyway, we rushed over after receiving the call. When we arrived, we had already found them, and they were all frozen. As for what happened at the scene, we don't know. Besides, although we found traces of a fight at the scene, we didn't find any traces or smell of other people. Even the caddy couldn't track them. After hearing the words of the police, the 2 looked at each other and then continued to ask, then what about the surveillance nearby? We should be able to find some clues. It's really unfortunate. That place is near the beach and is remote. In addition, the surveillance nearby was destroyed by humans during that period of time, and we can't find any clues. We have also investigated. The surveillance nearby happened to be destroyed by these Japanese. We are now retrieving surveillance from other places, hoping to find some useful clues. This is a more detailed report of investigation and analysis by other departments. You 2 prosecutors should also take a look. As he spoke, the police took out a document and handed it to the 2 people in front of us. If I'm not mistaken, they were planning to sneak over here and capture some creatures, but they were destroyed. The 2 quickly figured out the information in front of them. As for what creatures the other party wanted to capture, why the other party wanted to destroy it, and most importantly, why these people died in the process of being captured, they had no idea. How did they die? What did the forensic doctor say? The forensic doctor said that they died of poisoning, or the poison itself was hidden in their bodies, just like Deadpool. The police also shook their heads. Although there was nothing strange about this case, it was full of doubts. There were too many places that they simply couldn't figure out what was going on. We can't do anything about the rest. Leave it to us. You don't have to intervene in this case. The 2 people immediately understood that it would be difficult to investigate this matter, but this was their mission. This matter is not simple. There must be something else going on. After the 2 walked out of the police station, one of them frowned slightly. After all, they are Deadpools from Japan. Judging from their style of doing things, they are definitely not ordinary people. But they don't seem to be very good. From some traces, we can see that their plan should be very perfect, but they were killed just after they landed. One of them also said with a puzzled look on his face, logically speaking, how could they come up with such a perfect plan, and there were 6 people who were directly killed? It should be that they were not prepared. They were directly tricked without preparation. And from the traces left at the scene, we can see that one of the elves is quite strong. They should have been directly killed without any defense or summoning elves. I know all of what you said, but I'm more interested in the person who shot. He seems to be deliberately targeting and got the news in advance, especially the several traps left at the scene. Although they are simple, they are indeed very useful. Last time, you went to report first, and I went to investigate the scene to see if I can find more important clues. As for what happened later, Zhu Xiandao didn't know, and Zhu Xiandao also knew, that they could never find him. Zhu Xiandao and the two beauties had already arrived at a hotel in the ancient city. After a short break, the three of them went directly to the ancient city gym. The ancient city was obviously much larger than other places, so the flow of people was naturally much larger. When Zhu Xiandao first arrived at the gym, he found that he had to queue up. There was another time when the number of people in the audience seats increased significantly. After waiting for more than half an hour, Zhu Xiandao finally came to the battlefield. The Ironbone Earthman is level 25. Looking at the elves summoned by the gym owner, Zhu Xiandao took a deep breath. This is a level of a normal challenge. Thinking about the challenges he had before, there were even level 40. Isn't this a joke? And Zhu Xiandao also directly summoned his own elf, Pidgeot. Unsurprisingly, under this level of challenge, Zhu Xiandao easily influenced the first game. Zhu Xiandao easily defeated the opponent's 3 challenge elves with a Pidgeot. Zhu Xiandao was in an unprecedented mood. He finally experienced a normal challenge. If he gave himself the highest difficulty every time, it would be too aggrieved. Congratulations to the host for completing the main task, obtaining a random skill, and 3 chances to draw a lottery. The challenge had just ended, and the voice of the system rang in Zhu Xiandao's mind. Male Zhu Xiandao also obtained a fighting skill from the gym leader. On the other side, Zhu Feng also easily won the badge without any surprise. After the battle, the 3 of them walked out of the gym again. Next, we will have a good time. This is an ancient city with many places of interest. After Zhang Na walked out of the gym, she became more excited. He was not interested in these challenges at all, and he was only interested in these tourist attractions. Wait a minute, my people will do a deal with Zhu Xiandao first, and after the deal, we will have a good trip and relax. Zhu Xiandao and Zhang Na also nodded, and then they returned to the hotel they had just come to, and saw a young man walking towards them in the distance. Zhu Xiandao looked at the young man in front of him, and was also black-lined. This is a bad person, no matter how you look at it. It looks like the non-mainstream family in the legend before. Chapter 41. I'm here to take you back. Sister Zhu, it's been a long time since I last saw her. With her yellow hair in a strange hairstyle, shiny earrings, and expensive suit, Zhu Xiandao really didn't know how to complain. Zhu Feng ignored him, as if he had shattered his worldview just by looking at him. He is Zhu Hao, my cousin who is 1 year younger than me. Zhu Feng introduced him to Zhu Xiandao next to him. Zhu Hao also turned his head to look at Zhu Xiandao, and then walked in front of Zhu Xiandao in a very familiar manner, hooked his arm around Zhu Xiandao's neck, and turned his back to his cousin. I said you are not simple. Sister Zhu's temper is notoriously bad in our family, and you can actually go with her. I really admire you. Zhu Xiandao's mouth twitched after hearing this. Was she saying bad things about him so blatantly in front of him? Pa. As expected, Zhu Hao had just finished speaking when he was hit hard on the head, and his head collapsed. Zhu Feng, how many times have I told you that your head can be cut off, blood can flow, but your hair can't be messed up? Zhu Hao even called out her real name, looking at Zhu Feng fiercely, as if he was about to take action. Zhu Feng raised her hand again. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. If you dare to touch my hair again next time, I will never forgive you. Seeing Zhu Feng's action, Zhu Hao hurriedly took a step back, looking frightened. Looking at this funny guy in front of him, Zhu Xiandao was speechless. Hey, isn't this Zhang Na? Long time no see, you are really getting more and more beautiful. Come, let your brother hug you. Get away. Zhu Hao just finished speaking when he heard Zhang Na's impolite tone. Zhu Xiandao looked at Zhu Hao with a black line in his head, thinking that Zhu Hao was also quite capable. In his impression, she always remained gentle and lovely when he met her, and he had never seen her swearing as soon as they met. Brother, this is what you want. Take a look at the orb of life. Zhu Hao said to Zhu Xiandao with a nonchalant look, and the last purple red bead appeared in his hand. This is the dragon's tooth you want. After taking the things, Zhu Xiandao also handed over the dragon's tooth. Can I ask what you did to make them treat you like this? Zhu Xiandao said curiously. What did he do to make the two women so disgusted? Nothing. We have known each other since we were young, but when we were young, everyone was ignorant. When I had nothing to do, I would play with them, such as adding some ingredients to their snacks, knocking on their doors in the middle of the night, etc. Zuheo said with a smug look on his face. Zhu Xiandao looked at Zuheo in shock. It was a miracle that you can still live until now. By the way, is there another thing for me to touch the transaction this time? Grandpa asked you to go back, the sooner the better. Many people turned their heads and said to Zhu Feng with a serious face. Seeing Zuheo's serious face, Zhu Feng also looked at Zuheo in confusion. What is it? Are you lying to me again? Why didn't the family call me? Why am I that kind of person in your heart? You really guessed it right. You really are that kind of person. Before Zhu Feng could speak, Zhang Na next to him spoke first. She was deceived by this man a lot when she was a child. It's true. There is something at home that needs you to come forward, and they also know that if they call you directly, you will definitely not go back, so they asked me to go. It's with the Dragon's Fang. To be honest, I don't care at all. Listening to Zuheo's words, Zhu Feng suddenly became serious. What is it that you have to find me for? Zhu Feng's face was full of confusion. I don't know either. Anyway, you will know as long as you go back. Anyway, Grandpa has only one order for me, that is, I must take you back. Don't make it difficult for me. You also know Grandpa's temper. If you really make Grandpa unhappy, you may be fine, but I will be dead. Zuheo shook his head. Obviously he was also very afraid of his grandfather. Zhu Feng also hesitated to tell the truth. He really didn't want to go back to the family right now. Zhu Xiandao also understood that there must be something in the family that needed Zhu Feng to come forward, and the serial number appeared here just to bring Zhu Feng back to the family. Since Sister Zhu has something to do in the family, go back and take a look. It won't take long anyway. Zhang Na next to him also said that you can't just ignore it in such a family. And although Zuheo would play some pranks on weekdays, he was very serious in front of serious things. What will you do when I leave? Zhu Feng asked. What's the big deal? At most, we can go back together. It just so happens that I also want to go to see my grandfather. Zhang Na also spoke and finally turned her head to look at Zhu Xiandao. What about you? Do you want to go with us? I won't go. After all, you still have important things to do. Let's contact each other after you are done. Then we will find a place to meet. Zhu Xiandao shook his head. After all, it always felt a little strange to let him go to their homes. That's fine. After seeing Zhu Xiandao's refusal, the two didn't think much. By the way, this is the energy cube I made before. Zhu Xiandao said as he took out a large number of energy cubes from his backpack, but they were all yellow. Thank you very much. Then we will leave first, and we will find you after we finish our business. If there is nothing else, then we will leave first, but don't worry, when you arrive in Nanchang in the future, just find me, and I will take you to have a good time. After Zuheo next to him finished speaking, he also took the two of them away immediately. Zhu Xiandao looked at the backs of the people leaving, and was slightly thoughtful. In his impression, Zhu Huan seemed to have always been a carefree person who talked about things when there was something to say, and lost his temper when he was angry. But at that moment just now, Zhu Xiandao clearly noticed a flash of worry and hesitation in Zhu Feng's eyes. What is going on? Zhu Xiandao thought about it and really couldn't figure it out. After all, he didn't get many clues. Forget it, let's go back first. There are more important things waiting for me to do. Zhu Xiandao shook his head and ignored them. Anyway, he and they were just casual acquaintances and had not known each other for long. Even if they really had something to do, they probably wouldn't ask him for help, and he might not be able to help. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 40 to come in and talk. Lottery. After returning to the hotel, Zhu Xiandao used all of his 3 chances to draw the lottery. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the top grade Firestone, the Miracle Seed, and the Unknown Food. Looking at what he had just obtained, Zhu Xiandao was speechless. The Miracle Seed was exclusive to the Grass type Pokémon. It came from another fire time. Although it was an evolution stone, he really couldn't use it now. As for the unknown food, it could be used when the stupid fish evolved. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the true energy bomb. Seeing the skills he had obtained, Zhu Xiandao's eyes lit up, and he immediately asked his black and white and Nidoking to learn. After resting for another night, Zhu Xiandao also got up early. He originally planned to go to the prop store and sell the things he didn't have. After all, Zhu Xiandao didn't have much money on him now, and all the materials were basically used to make energy blocks. Originally, there were 2 rich people around him, and he could borrow from them when he was out of money. But now Zhu Xiandao had to find a way on his own. After a simple breakfast, Zhu Xiandao went to the prop store. How is it possible? How is it possible that there is no stock? I'm really sorry, sir. Our last miracle seed was just sold a few days ago. You know that this kind of item is also very rare. Otherwise, I will contact other cities and ask if they have any for sale. The salesperson explained to a teenager with a helpless look on his face. Zhu Xiandao was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that his luck was so good. Just when he wanted to sell miracle seeds, someone wanted them. Zhu Xiandao walked forward directly. Do you need miracle seeds? I just happen to have them here. After hearing the voice, the boy who was originally angry turned his head and looked at Zhu Xiandao. Zhu Xiandao also took out the miracle seeds from his backpack. When the boy saw the miracle seeds, his eyes flashed with a beam of light. How about 500,000? Hearing the boy's price, Zhu Xiandao was even more certain that he had heard it right. It was 500,000. You know, even on ordinary days, the price of miracle seeds is only 300,000 to 400,000. Even so, it is in short supply. But he didn't expect the other party to raise the price to 500,000 directly. No problem. Zhu Xiandao would not refuse. After all, the other party gave so much money, how could he refuse it? After the transaction was completed, Zhu Xiandao also wanted to turn around and leave. My last name is Zhang. You can call me Zhao Zhang. I'm also a new trainer who just graduated. The boy next to him also hurriedly walked to Zhu Xiandao's side. Then my name is Zhu Xiandao, and I'm also a trainer who just graduated like you. Really? You don't look like a newcomer. Let's have a duel. Zhu Xiandao looked at the boy in front of him with a headache. He didn't seem to be familiar with him at all, and he just made a deal. Why did he have to fight him? Pack up the things I asked for before. The boy ignored Zhu Xiandao and said to the waiter behind him, "Hello, Mr. Zhang Tao, you spent a total of 300,000 yuan. Here is the receipt." Zhu Xiandao was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that this boy was quite rich. A new trainer directly spent 800,000 yuan. Ordinary families can't afford so much money. Then the boy dragged Zhu Xiandao directly to the battlefield. Zhu Xiandao also looked at Zhang Tao helplessly. Although he didn't really want to fight him, he couldn't resist the other party's enthusiasm. And he also wanted to see how big the gap was between ordinary people and this kind of rich pedestrian. Miss Guana is level 28. Zhu Xiandao frowned when he saw the other party summon such a cute elf. Zhu Xiandao even felt that this boy would do something to this elf from time to time. Zhu Xiandao was not surprised at all. He just pointed at the other party and easily killed him in seconds. And Zhu Xiandao's strength even made Zhang Tao look incredible. Ding. And when Zhang Tao was about to say something, the Pidgeot suddenly turned into a white light. It's going to evolve. And then the white light reflected the continuous increase in the size of the Pidgeot and quickly became more than 2 meters tall. Congratulations on evolving into a Pidgeot. Zhu Xiandao smiled slightly. He didn't expect that he could upgrade his elf through such a simple battle. After a simple class, Zhu Xiandao also said goodbye to Zhang Tao and finally began to sweep the goods he needed again. When Zhu Xiandao returned to the hotel, he had just rested, but at this moment there was a knock on the door. Zhu Xiandao was also a little confused. Who would knock on the door at this time? Could it be the waiter? Zhu Xiandao opened the door of the room in confusion and then saw 2 men in suits and leather shoes standing in front of him with serious faces. What do you want? Zhu Xiandao looked at the 2 people in front of him in confusion. Hello, we are investigators. We just happened to find you. We want to know something. As the two said, they took out a certificate and showed it to Zhu Xiandao. After hearing this, Zhu Xiandao frowned slightly. The investigator came to him and had something to ask. Thinking that the only thing he had done recently was the one on the beach, it seemed that the other party should have found clues related to him. Then come in and talk, Zhu Xiandao said while making way. I don't know if there is anything I can do to help the two investigators. Zhu Xiandao was the first to speak after leading the two into the room. The other two were also a little surprised when they saw Zhu Xiandao's calm attitude. This was obviously not an ordinary person. After all, any normal person who meets them will be like a police search and will definitely be a little scared or curious. But Zhu Xiandao seemed to have anticipated all this. We just want to ask us, what were you doing from the night of July 5th to the early morning of July 6th? Hearing the words of the search officer, Zhu Xiandao's eyes suddenly became clear. Sure enough, the other party still found him. Male Zhu Xiandao was also a little strange. He had clearly processed all the information that could be handed over, but why was he still discovered? Zhu Xiandao was also suddenly shocked. He suddenly forgot that he was near the beach, but places like tourist attractions are all monitored, and he really had no way to deal with it. Chapter 43. There is only one possibility. I just went out for training that night, Zhu Xiandao said very calmly. He could refuse and didn't care. Anyway, the other party just wanted to ask for some information. He didn't have much connections and didn't break the law. Moreover, he had captured a few devils, which was considered to be a favor to them, so he didn't need to be afraid. We also investigated the surveillance information near the beach, and we found that only you went to our Bay Area. Did you just go there for training? No one should go there for training at that time. I hope you can cooperate with our investigation truthfully. The eyes of the man in the black suit suddenly became bleak, like a sharp sword, as if he wanted to pierce Zhu Xiandao. What do you mean? Are you interrogating me? It's my personal freedom to go there. It shouldn't have anything to do with you, right? Or I want to ask if something big happened? Or do you think I committed a crime? Zhu Xiandao also responded with an unhappy face. This is considered a good thing no matter what, but they treated him in the same tone as a prisoner. Originally, Zhu Xiandao wanted to explain it to them, but since that was the case, he didn't need to explain it to them. Anyway, he didn't need to worry about anything. Hearing Zhu Xiandao's words, the two investigators were also in a dream. They were obviously stunned by the question and didn't come back to their senses for a while. After all, in their cognition, they were the only ones who interrogated others, and no one else dared to talk to them so arrogantly. You really didn't commit anything. We are just conducting a routine investigation. Really? It's just an investigation. Then what do you mean by using the attitude and tone of interrogating prisoners? Do you think that even ordinary people have to cooperate with you? Zhu Xiandao also figured it out at that moment. The other party had no way to deal with him. Originally, Zhu Xiandao could help them tell some information they wanted to know. But if they actually used such an attitude and tone, then he didn't need to give them a good face. Moreover, Zhu Xiandao also knew that Zhu Feng and Zhang Na's family conditions were not ordinary. If there was really anything, he could ask them for help. At least he wouldn't have such a big problem. After all, what happened that night was also related to Zhang Na and Zhu Feng, so Zhu Xiandao didn't need to worry. They wouldn't help him. As a citizen, you have the obligation to help the police search or provide evidence. The two said righteously. I have cooperated with you very well, but your attitude makes me feel that I don't need to cooperate with you at all, not to mention that I have provided all the information you said. If you don't have anything to ask, can you leave now? I want to rest. Zhu Xiandao opened his mouth and ordered them to leave. Mr. Zhu, I'm really sorry, my colleague may have said something unpleasant, but we really didn't mean that. I apologize to you on his behalf. We came here this time just to ask if you saw any kind of people around you that night, or if there was anything strange. Another colleague also stood up immediately, speaking in an official tone. I'm really sorry. I was just training that night. As for the person you mentioned, I really didn't see him. After all, it was dark and windy at night, and I really couldn't see anything. As for the strange things, I was just training my elves at the time and didn't pay much attention to the surroundings. In my opinion, nothing strange happened. Hearing Zhu Xiandao's words, the two looked at each other and finally slowly left the door. The male Zhu Xiandao also smiled slightly. These two people are quite interesting. One plays a good cop and the other plays the bad cop. Do they really think they know nothing? There are two people who just left, and one of them is still angry. No need to think about it, it must be him. With my many years of professional experience, I bet it was definitely him. I think we should just take him back for interrogation. One of the men was even more angry, and he looked like he would never give up. You should also control your temper. Think about it carefully. Even if he really did it, tell me, has he committed a crime? No matter what, he caught a few Japanese devils who sneaked into our country. This is also a help. You said you would take him back, so you should give him a reason. And you took a good man back for no reason. Do you just want the world to be full of bad people? The man next to him shook his head helplessly. There are already very few people in the world who are willing to get along with each other secretly like Zhu Xiandao. You still want to kill him now? Hearing the man's words, the man who was furious was also stunned, but we still have to investigate this matter. He is the person involved. I can tell you clearly that I have already sent people to investigate his information. His identity is very ordinary and easy to check. He is just an ordinary person. But his parents, the information 15 years ago is blank, and it can't be found at all. Do you know what this means? The man who was originally a little angry was even more shocked after hearing his companion's words. Their identities are the power of search officers, which is very big. It is no exaggeration to say that it is easy to investigate any ordinary person's information. But now they can't even find out the information of a few ordinary people. Doesn't that mean that the other party's status is even higher than theirs, so high that even they are not qualified to investigate? Not only that, I heard that he has a very special relationship with the eldest daughter of the Zhu family, and they seemed to be together at the time. You said you want to take him back. Will Miss Zhu agree? Will the Zhu family agree? The man who was originally very irritable was like being poured with a basin of cold water. For a moment, he was speechless and didn't know what to say. What is the identity of that person? Why can't we find any information? Could it be that he is a person with more power than us? I don't know what their identities are, but I don't think they should be high-ranking officials in this world. Since they are not high-ranking officials, there is only one other possibility. The man also spoke slowly. Are you saying that they are the kings? The man widened his eyes and said in disbelief. Chapter 44 The biggest trump card. You should know that the King of Heaven is a very special existence in this world. It does not mean that you can become the King of Heaven if you have the strength of the King of Heaven fighting skills. Not only that, this title also represents power. If you want to get the title of the King of Heaven in this world, it is at least awarded by the country, and he has the strength to command the police and investigators of the whole country. It can be said that being able to reach this title means that he has super top level combat power. Not only that, but behind him stands the country, a super combat power recognized by the country, and his existence is basically not fighting with foreign masters. After all, in this world, talents are the most important. People who can reach the level of the King of Heaven are rare, and those who can be recognized by the country can be said to be none of them. Weak. No one has a low power status. If you want to get the title of the King of Heaven, in addition to being recognized by the country, you must also have at least 6 king level elves and super high level command ability and combat experience. In this world, there are only a dozen kings left in this country. They all have families with super strong backgrounds. To put it bluntly, they are born noble. It can be said that in such a world, those animals with good conditions have the best resources in the world. Ordinary people lose to others at the starting line if they want to compete with them, and they run on rockets. How can you beat them with your legs? So before those people became kings recognized by the country, they were already super strong. Whether it was their own strength or the background behind them, they were impeccable. The Zhu family happened to be such a family. Whether it was background power or personal strength, they were impeccable. Let's stop here. If we continue to investigate, it may involve the Zhu family, and that's not something we can intervene in. Still in the room, Zhu Xiandao clenched his fists after watching the two people leave. Zhu Xiandao also felt extremely aggrieved at this time. He knew that this matter was related to Zhu Feng of the Zhu family, so the other party was so polite. Otherwise, he might even be forced to go back for investigation by the other party. Zhu Xiandao also knew that he was still too weak now, and he needed to constantly improve his strength and become stronger, so strong that no one dared to disobey his decision. If he also had a strong background like the Zhu family, Zhu Xiandao knew without thinking that the other party would never speak to him in such a tone. On the other hand, if Zhu Xiandao had the strength of the king level, then the other party would be as docile as a pet in front of him. Zhu Xiandao finally understood why the system would issue him such an ultimate task. In any world, the strong always decide everything. This world is so cruel. The stronger you are, the more you can get, the more you can decide, and everyone has to look at your face. Originally, Zhu Xiandao thought that it was good to be an ordinary person in the new world and play games in the world, but now Zhu Xiandao feels that he is living too comfortably now, so comfortably that he has no threats and no experiences. Zhu Xiandao knows better than anyone that it is absolutely impossible for a person who has never experienced any difficulties and obstacles to become a strong man, and Zhu Xiandao decided to make himself stronger, so strong that no one can stop his pace. Then what I have to do now is to capture the next elf and gather 6 elves first. Zhu Xiandao clenched his fists. He had never thought of becoming the strongest person in the world like now. Of course, Zhu Xiandao also knew that this idea was too absurd, but Zhu Xiandao would also work hard to achieve his goal, constantly become stronger, and improve a little bit every day step by step. Anyway, I have a system and I can become stronger than anyone else by relying on the system, and these are not without the capital to compete with each other. The system is my greatest strength and my biggest trump card. After that, Zhu Xiandao also left directly. He chose Bishan. It was difficult to solve the problem and did not choose to go to a big city. Zhu Xiandao's goal was the rainforest in Bishan where there were many wild elves. Bishan is not only very suitable for training, but also if you are lucky, you can encounter excellent rare elves. 3 days later, when Zhu Xiandao appeared again, he had already appeared on the outskirts of the forest in Bishan. At this time, Zhu Xiandao was eating with his 5 elves. Take an energy cube. Zhu Xiandao said as he took out a blue energy cube and handed it to the stupid fish by the pond. Zhu Xiandao often cultivated the relationship with the stupid fish and occasionally trained it, but after all, it was just born, so Zhu Xiandao's training intensity was very low. After the energy cube was eaten, the stupid fish in the pond suddenly flashed a white light. It's about to evolve. Zhu Xiandao's face was also happy. The male protagonist knew that the reason why the stupid fish evolved so quickly was because it took energy cubes every day. In addition, Zhu Xiandao himself knew the correct training method and evolution method. When the light faded again, a melodic appeared in front of Zhu Xiandao. Mean Xiao, you have grown up, and you are no longer like a baby like before. Looking at the more than 7-meter long melodic in front of him, like a mermaid, appearing in the pond, Zhu Xiandao's face was also happy. If other people knew that it was only 4 or 5 days from the birth of Melodic to now, it has evolved into Melodic, I'm afraid no one would believe it. Melodica also crawled directly to Zhu Xiandao's side and rubbed its head on Zhu Xiandao's arm. You can't call me daddy anymore when you grow up, understand? Zhu Xiandao touched Melodica's head. When he thought of the appearance of the newly born Benny fish, Zhu Xiandao felt that it was a little cute. At that time, Zhu Xiandao also took out several skills that he had prepared long ago and the props that Benny fish needed and threw all the props to Benny fish. In the following period of time, Zhu Xiandao has been practicing in the depths of the forest of Bishan. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, Zhu Xiandao was constantly training with several of his own elves. Due to the existence of the experience sharer, Venus's improvement speed can be said to be quite fast. During this period of time, Zhu Xiandao's Melodica can be said to have made rapid progress. Chapter 45 Side Quests. Melodica's level also directly reached level 27. The higher the level, the slower the upgrade speed. The speed of other Pokémons has been getting slower and slower. Zhu Xiandao took a look and saw that the levels of other Pokémons, Black and White, had reached level 48, Pidgeot had reached level 40, Disaster Pokémon had reached level 40, and Nidoking had reached level 42. It was too difficult to upgrade after level 40, and Zhu Xiandao was a little helpless. If it were in the past, the upgrade speed could even reach 3 or 4 levels a day, but now it was good to be able to upgrade 1 level in 3 or 4 days. The experience gained was getting lower and lower, mainly because the levels of the Pokémons in this forest were also low. Zhu Xiandao also knew that his upgrade speed was already very fast compared to others. After all, not everyone had a system like him and had experience sharing. If it was someone else, it was estimated that the upgrade speed would definitely not be as fast as his, but Zhu Xiandao was still not satisfied with this. Zhu Xiandao knew that he had to constantly improve himself. Only with continuous and unremitting efforts, whether in thought or in reality, must constantly improve. Only in this way can he become stronger and stronger, to the point where others can't catch up. Zhu Xiandao also felt that he should have some more difficult training methods, otherwise the experience gained by the current training methods was too low. After another day of training, Zhu Xiandao was also heading towards his camp. On the other side, Zhu Xiandao also took out his own elf illustrations, looked at the messages one after another, and replied one after another, some from his parents and some from friends. Zhu Xiandao also simply replied, as long as he thought he was living a good life, that was enough. And in the past half month, Zhu Xiandao has been staying with the elves alone. Zhu Xiandao suddenly looked up at the moon in the sky. For some reason, Zhu Xiandao suddenly remembered the time when he was with Zhang Na before. Although both of them had some ugly flaws, when they were together, it seemed that it was the happiest day for him on the road of cultivation. Zhang Na was like a happy fruit, always making the two laugh, while Zhu Feng was more like an enemy, always competing with himself. Should I find a girlfriend too? It's really a bit lonely to be alone. Zhu Xiandao also muttered to himself. After all, having someone to chat with me all the time seems to be a good choice, which is much better than enjoying the moonlight alone here. Another time, the 5 elves behind Zhu Xiandao were also communicating with each other, and looked at Zhu Xiandao, as if they were looking at a fool. What are you talking about? Are you saying bad things about me again? Zhu Xiandao suddenly turned around, and looked at his elves with an unhappy face. I have discovered now, and I don't know who started it. From time to time, these 5 elves will say bad things about me behind my back. Forget it. Anyway, you are the only ones who can accompany me now, so just say a few bad words. Zhu Xiandao shook his head, looking lonely. After all, apart from them, I really don't seem to have any partners who are trustworthy and worth chatting with. After hearing Zhu Xiandao's words, the 5 elves who were whispering immediately surrounded Zhu Xiandao. The 5 people were also noisy and wanted to do something to make Zhu Xiandao happy. Then Zhu Xiandao got up and returned to his tent to prepare for sleep. But not long after Zhu Xiandao lay down, there was a noisy sound outside. What's going on? Zhu Xiandao thought of it and immediately got up and went outside to check. After all, this sudden noise from the depths of the forest was definitely not normal. Just after coming outside, Zhu Xiandao also found that there seemed to be some big movement in the forest at this time. The leaves in the distance were rustling. Under the moonlight at night, countless birds took off from the forest and fled to the moon. Trigger the side quest. At this time, the system's prompt sounded. I knew it was definitely not a good thing. Hearing the system's prompt sound, Zhu Xiandao knew without thinking that something must have happened in the forest again. Side quest: smugglers, repel or destroy the gang that captures elves in the forest. Complete the task and get a qualification enhancement potion, limited to talent level 3 and 3 draws. Looking at the task issued by the system, Zhu Xiandao instantly understood what happened in the forest. There was nothing unexpected about Xiantan Middle School. After all, there was almost certain to be such a team in the forest, but he didn't expect the system to treat them as a task. What Zhu Xiandao cares more about is the talent enhancement potion. That means I can change my elf from talent 3 to level 4, right? Zhu Xiandao was shocked for a moment. You know, talent is innate and basically will not change. unless you are very lucky or encounter some great fortune, otherwise the talent will never change. Although the system has only given a talent level 3 potion, Zhu Xiandao knows very well that this means there are also talent level 4 potions and talent level 5 potions. Doesn't that mean that no matter what kind of elf Zhu Xiandao is, he can use the system to make him have the talent and talent of a divine beast? When Zhu Xiandao thought of this, he was shocked. You know, the reason why a divine beast is because his talent and comprehension ability is higher than other elves. But if everyone has the talent and talent of a divine beast, I'm afraid the divine beasts will be everywhere. Although this is just a talent 3 potion, it's just right for me. We have to do this mission, even if we don't want to. At first, Zhu Xiandao didn't plan to attack the Pokémon catching team. After all, there would be teams like this, no matter where in the world. But now, in order to get the talent enhancing potion, Zhu Xiandao had to attack them. Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame your bad luck for running into the system. Zhu Xiandao shook his head. Zhu Xiandao's eyes were fierce at this moment. This was a way to make himself stronger. Although doing so would be unfair to them, as long as it could improve himself, Zhu Xiandao didn't care about the others. Zhu Xiandao then immediately packed up his things and took out his Pokeball. There are people catching Pokémon in large numbers in the forest. We'll attack together later. We just need to deal with them and drive them away. There's no need to kill anyone. Chapter 46. I'm here to help you. Pidgeot, take me to the sky to observe the situation now. Zhu Xiandao quickly gave orders to the elves around him, and the other elves nodded and prepared after hearing it. Pidgeot also bent down, and Zhu Xiandao quickly climbed onto Pidgeot's back. Zhu Xiandao didn't think about killing all of these people. After all, there was no need to kill them if they had no grudges. Just find a suitable excuse and a suitable reason to drive them away. As for whether they would come to this forest to capture in the future, that was not Zhu Xiandao's business. At this time, Zhu Xiandao also flew high in the sky on the nose eagle. Fly higher and try not to let them notice. 100 meters above the forest, the style of this poem was hovering in the air, and Zhu Xiandao above also took out a telescope to observe everything below. It didn't take long for Zhu Xiandao to find the traces of several other people. Zhu Xiandao only took a glance and knew that things were difficult to deal with because the other party was not a single person but a gang. A cursory glance showed that there was at least a group of people and they might even be hiding in the dark. And there were 4 cages beside them. The elves in the cages were all grass type, and the elves in the paws were constantly resisting, but every time they resisted, someone would take various weapons to the elves and destroy them. And every time the mercenaries took action, an elf would fall down, and then lie on the ground in fear, with anger and helplessness in his eyes. Zhu Xiandao also counted carefully, and found that there were a total of 16 people, and there were more than a dozen elves. There are quite a few people, and judging from their equipment, they should be professional. It seems that they have done this kind of thing a lot. Zhu Xiandao said, while looking at the strongest elf they captured. One was a Doodly talent level 3, 43. As for the other tests, they were all elves with talent levels and level 2 around 30. It seems that their purpose this time is very clear. The elves they caught are all of the same type, but there are too many of them. I'm challenging so many people alone. Zhu Xiandao frowned slightly. If there were only a few people, Zhu Xiandao could still think of a way, but with 16 people, Zhu Xiandao did not think he had the ability to subdue them all in an instant. Moreover, as a team, they must have a tacit understanding. If they were disturbed, the consequence would definitely be being besieged. Zhu Xiandao was also observing the surrounding situation to see if there was anything he could use. After all, Zhu Xiandao was not stupid enough to challenge a team of 16 people alone. Zhu Xiandao suddenly discovered that there seemed to be a group of elves in the distance. Zhu Xiandao just took a rough look and then hurriedly ordered Pidgeot to fly over. Then Zhu Xiandao came to a place not far away. Zhu Xiandao saw that there were at least hundreds of elves surrounding there, and they seemed to be discussing something at this time. Seeing Zhu Xiandao, he instantly understood that they also wanted to protect themselves. If they didn't want to be captured, they had to unite to have a chance. When Zhu Xiandao thought of this, he immediately had an idea. If he could join forces with them, the difficulty of this time could be greatly reduced. However, Zhu Xiandao took a look and found that he had been in the forest in recent days, and some of the elves were even bullied by him. Zhu Xiandao even suspected that he might be besieged by this group of elves as soon as he appeared. But no matter what, he had to take the initiative. After all, whether he could complete the task depended on them. Then Zhu Xiandao also slowly descended and came not far from the group of elves. The appearance of Zhu Xiandao immediately frightened a group of elves. Everyone was even more like an enemy. They looked at Zhu Xiandao in general. Everyone showed a vigilant look, as if they would not hesitate to act if Zhu Xiandao made any unusual moves. I just want to say that I have no ill will towards you. I came here just to have a good talk with you. If you want to deal with that group of people, then I think we can become companions. Zhu Xiandao raised his hands high to show his sincerity. After seeing Zhu Xiandao's attitude, some of the operators also relaxed their vigilance because they also felt the kindness of Zhu Xiandao. Of course, there were also some elves who looked at Zhu Xiandao cautiously. They would not believe the words of the man in front of them. They were either some particularly experienced operators or some elves who had been bullied by Zhu Xiandao. Especially those elves who had been bullied by Zhu Xiandao looked at Zhu Xiandao with hatred in their eyes. I did something wrong before. Please don't mind. I just want to train my elves. I didn't hurt you. Zhu Xiandao also looked at those resentful eyes and explained awkwardly. After hearing Zhu Xiandao's words, some of the elves, although there was still hatred in their eyes, it was much less. And they also knew that compared to those who were capturing their companions, although the man in front of them had some things that made them unhappy, he was much better than those people. Of course, as compensation, I will choose to assist you in rescuing your companions. After Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, he smiled and stretched out his hand with a sincere face. One of the elves looked at Zhu Xiandao, and for 3 seconds it seemed as if he wanted to see through Zhu Xiandao to see if what Zhu Xiandao said was true. But no matter how you look at it, Zhu Xiandao seems to be true, and having one more person is indeed helpful to them. After all, some elves have seen Zhu Xiandao's strength. Then one of the elves came out, stretched out his hand and shook it with the male protagonist. And Zhu Xiandao could see that the moment this elf came out, the other elves also acquiesced to his choice. I think many of you here have had your companions captured. I'm here to help you. I hope you can trust me and join hands with me to deal with them. Zhu Xiandao also wanted to express his determination to other people at this time. After all, although the person in front of him seemed to have some identity and status here, Zhu Xiandao also knew that it was simply a pipe dream to want to gain recognition from others with just a few words. Chapter 47, Feint to the east and attack in the west. As soon as Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, Zhu Manteng, who had just shaken hands with Zhu Xiandao, turned his head and looked at the other elves. He also helped Zhu Xiandao to persuade the other elves. Seeing this scene, Zhu Xiandao was very happy. He did not expect that his trip this time would be so smooth. Then Zhu Xiandao joined them and began to discuss how to deal with them. First of all, the team was very professional. It can be said that they were very familiar with the forest. Everyone wore a gas mask. It can be said that any toxin effect was ineffective for them. In fact, if they really had to fight, although they had an advantage in numbers, the other party still had hostages in their hands. If he did not have the threat of elves, it would cause part of their combat effectiveness to disappear instantly. So Zhu Xiandao also decided that the most important thing was to attract their attention and rescue the elves first. As long as the elves were rescued, all the elves would join hands. Although this group of people was large enough, they could not do anything. And when Zhu Xiandao and the elves were discussing, Zhu Xiandao suddenly felt that there seemed to be something on the top of his tree, and Zhu Xiandao raised his head sharply. At this time, Zhu Xiandao also found a relatively small elf, who was on the tree trunk, looking at the elves and himself. The elf also looked into his eyes. After seeing Zhu Xiandao's eyes, the elf jumped down from the branch and jumped onto Zhu Xiandao's shoulder, sweeping Zhu Xiandao's face with its tail. Zhu Xiandao was also puzzled, looking at the foam squirrel in front of him, wondering why he did this. Could it be that he had a grudge against him? Squeak, squeak. There is something dirty on your face. I will clean it for you. The foam squirrel also made its own cry. Thank you. Zhu Xiandao said a little embarrassedly. No matter what, if a squirrel sweeps your face with its tail, anyone would feel uncomfortable. Zhu Xiandao ignored it and continued to talk to the elves. On the other side, because it was late at night, the hunting gang was resting in front of a fire, and some people had already gone into the tent to rest. Zhu Xiandao was also hiding in a tree at a distance, secretly observing from behind with a telescope. Zhu Xiandao also found that this group of people was also very vigilant. Even at this time, they did not take off their masks, and they rested in batches. It was obvious that they were also very organized and disciplined. There were also several dark ducks on the other side of the tree observing the surrounding situation, and were always on alert. After observing for a while, Zhu Xiandao said to the foam mouse next to him, "Go and inform the elves that the action has begun." The foam teacher nodded, then jumped off Zhu Xiandao's shoulder, and then disappeared into the dense jungle with a few jumps. Then Zhu Xiandao turned his head and whispered his plan to the disaster elves and a bunch of bug babies in the distance. Zhu Xiandao also observed everything in the field attentively, striving to get more useful information. Crunch, crunch. And at this time, a dark crow on the tree suddenly screamed. "It's not time yet, wait a little longer," Zhu Xiandao said timidly. At this time, with the sound of the crow, the group of people also stood up, immediately became alert, and then released their own elves. At that moment, dozens of elves appeared. One of them looked like a leader, and said a few words. Finally, the other few people ran directly to us and guarded. The other few people took the elves to another direction. After waiting for a few minutes, Zhu Xiandao also began to wave his hand behind him. Zhu Xiandao's plan was also very simple, that is, to make a feint to the east and attack the west. After all, if there were too many people left here to guard, Zhu Xiandao would not be able to save the elves. Although there were still a few guards, Zhu Xiandao was already relaxed. Many Zhu Xiandao decided to let his black and white lead some elves to attack head on. As long as most of the elites could hold back the guards in front of them, Zhu Xiandao would have time to rescue the elves that were being watched. Let's hurry up too. After the disaster elf nodded, he immediately ran towards the target. After a while, the four guards were seen fighting against the large elf army that was coming towards them. Zhu Xiandao led a group of elves who were good at hiding and approached quietly. Fortunately, there were too few people left behind, so they were surrounded by a group of elves and could not do anything. On the other side, Zhu Xiandao also turned his hand, and the spider behind him instantly sprayed out countless insect silks, which instantly formed a net and covered the people surrounded in it. There is an ambush. In fact, it was also a change of color, but just when they wanted to do something, they found themselves entangled in these silk nets. Then more than 20 vines appeared, and at this time they had no chance to move, and were immediately tied up. Attack his neck with a sharp blade of spirit. Only a few puffs were heard, and the people in front of them all fell down, and their elves disappeared instantly. Could it be that he knew that these people had stopped breathing just by looking at them, and this time Zhu Xiandao had no room to stay? After what happened last time, Zhu Xiandao clearly understood that sometimes it is better to solve the problem directly. If he spared their lives, then maybe when they found out, he did it. He didn't know how much trouble it would bring to him. Zhu Xiandao also knew better than anyone that the result of appreciation and kindness was that he would continue to suffer greater disasters. Only when he became fierce and hated everyone to the point of being afraid of him, he would be a real strong man, a person so strong that no one dared to provoke him. Although Zhu Xiandao had killed someone at this time, he was not afraid or daunted at all. Instead, he had a little excitement in his heart. Zhu Xiandao also realized that his psychology was the same. He didn't know why Zhu Xiandao did this for the first time, but he didn't have the fear of ordinary people. At this time, the elves in the cage were also stunned when they saw this scene. What was going on? Chapter 48. No one left behind. I'm here to save you. Zhu Xiandao also comforted the elves in the cage in front of him, who were terrified. After that, he said to the disaster elf behind him, "Kick the cage open." As Zhu Xiandao finished speaking, the disaster elf flashed and rushed over directly. Then with a bang, the iron cage was directly deformed by the disaster elf, but it was just a deformation. So hard. Zhu Xiandao frowned slightly, with a hint of surprise on his face. You know, the disaster elf itself is a fighting type, and after the system's improvement, its physical fitness is even harder than that of ordinary disaster elves, but it didn't break the cage. Continue to attack, Zhu Xiandao said politely. Although it didn't break it at the first time, it would be fine, as long as it worked. Anyway, as long as it can get these elves out, that's enough. Then there was a continuous bang. Then the originally square cage was deformed, and the elves ran out of the gap one after another. Every elf had excitement on their faces. When they looked at Zhu Xiandao, their eyes had completely changed. There was no longer any vigilance, but instead they were full of gratitude. Let's go and help now. There are companions fighting in front. We have to go and help. Zhu Xiandao also said with a smile. What they were most worried about before was that the other party would use this group of elves to threaten them, making them tied up and unable to fight. But Zhu Xiandao is no longer worried now. What Zhu Xiandao has to do now is to get the couples together. As long as they are united, even if the other party has more people, they will face the united elf team. These professional teams will not be able to do anything. Everyone knows that if more than 170, unite together, the loss will be huge if I really fight them head on. As long as they are not fools, they know what to do. After hearing this, the elves around them also showed anger on their faces. They had all been tortured by the capture team before. Every time they thought of this, they wanted to cut the capture team into pieces. But this time is their chance for revenge. They swear that they will never let go of this capture team. On the other side, the elves were ready to fight the capture team head on. With the absolute suppression of numbers, the elves team had the upper hand. Boss, you can't go on like this. If you keep fighting like this, you won't be able to outlast the other side. Someone spoke up immediately. They didn't know what was going on. The elves they met today were all united. It's a bit strange. What's going on? Looking at their coordination and formation, it seems like someone has given them some advice. The leader frowned slightly. You should know that the combat power of the elves experiment itself is very strong, but if it comes to teamwork, this group of elves living in the forest will never be able to match them. But now their team actions can be traced. Although it can be seen that the coordination is not very tacit, it seems that there is a hidden conductor hiding behind them. The number of the other side is at least hundreds, and there are only dozens of them on their side. Even if their tactics here are stronger than the elves, they are a little struggling to resist in the case of round by round attacks. Moreover, in the battle just now, in just such a short time, the original 12 people lost 4 in an instant. What should we do now, boss? And one of them also said quickly, what's the matter with the lightning dragon? Not only is it too strong, but there shouldn't be such elves in this forest. Its level is indeed a bit high, a bit too high, and its combat power is also a bit scary. And the reason why they suddenly lost 4 people is inseparable from the lightning dragon in front of them. It is really too strong. Even several of their trump cards were killed instantly in a single fight. It can be said that among these hundreds of elves, only he is the most dazzling and eye-catching. Damn it, if we continue to consume like this, I'm afraid we will be wiped out. The first boss also frowned. Although he usually makes his own decisions, at this moment he can only make one decision, that is to escape. But he didn't figure out what was going on at all. This forest is not the first time he has come, but why did it suddenly become so difficult? Not only did he not catch any elves, but he also suffered huge losses. After seeing the appearance of Minas at the beginning, everyone's eyes lit up, because a Minas was enough to make up for all the Kinga, and they didn't know this time. You know, Minas is very rare in this world. But before they made a move, an electric dragon appeared, and then an Edo King appeared. Now immediately. Freezing ray. Before the leader could finish his words, a strange voice sounded behind him. As soon as the voice sounded, a ray of light flashed by, and then one of his men was frozen into ice. The leader also turned his head and said, "Who are you?" The leader also felt that something was wrong at this time. In this situation, someone would appear here. This made their team, which was already retreating, panic. Then he finally understood that, if he guessed correctly, those powerful elves belonged to the young man in front of him. It doesn't matter who I am. The important thing is that none of you can leave today. Zhu Xiandao responded loudly. The leader looked at Zhu Xiandao in confusion, with anger in his eyes. What is going on? Why would Zhu Xiandao, who had no grudges against him, suddenly attack him? Chief, what should we do? We are surrounded now. The few remaining people immediately surrounded the boss, their faces full of panic and fear, and even their voices were trembling. At this time, the leader ignored his men, but looked at Zhu Xiandao viciously. Boy, do you want to make a mortal feud with a spider adventure? The leader looked at Zhu Xiandao viciously. Make a mortal feud? Isn't it already made? Do you think there is still room for a loop? Zhu Xiandao sneered. Although he didn't really want to do this, in order to get the system's talent potion, Zhu Xiandao also risked his life. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, Tool Broadcast. This matter ends here. If you let us go, I promise you that I will not care about what happened today, and I will give you a reward. How about that? At this time, the boss also wanted to bribe Zhu Xiandao. After all, in this situation, if they confront each other head on, they will be annihilated. If they can bribe Zhu Xiandao, at least they can save their lives. As long as they can survive, they will have countless ways to deal with Zhu Xiandao. After investigating his identity, don't care about what happened today. Do you think you don't care about me, or I don't care about you? I said before that none of you can leave today. Zhu Xiandao looked at the people in front of him with a sneer on his face. If it was before, Zhu Xiandao would indeed be soft-hearted and let them go, leaving them a way to live. But now Zhu Xiandao has thought it through very clearly. He must be more ruthless, otherwise once he is soft-hearted, he doesn't know how much trouble he will cause. And Zhu Xiandao can do it too. It is certain that people like the other party, once they have a chance to survive, will definitely find ways to protect themselves without thinking about the next time. He is not a fool. How could he let them leave alive? Since you want to fight to the death, don't blame me. I will also let you see the strength of our spider adventure group. It's ridiculous. Just relying on you. You want to fight to the death. Zhu Xiandao sneered. It is difficult to say directly. Just after finishing speaking, he found that the other party directly took out a Pokeball. Fritters big explosion. The leader said even more viciously. Zhu Xiandao jumped when he heard the song and quickly gave an order. Pidgeot Hurricane. Then Pidgeot appeared instantly and flapped his wings. The originally Dark Knight suddenly appeared with a gust of wind, and Fritters was directly caught by the hurricane and was knocked unconscious and turned into a white light and returned to the Pokeball. And Zhu Xiandao was also relieved. You know, the damage of the Fritters big explosion is even equivalent to a C4. Once it explodes, there will definitely be countless casualties here. Zhu Xiandao had not expected that the other party actually possessed such an elf, which was simply too scary. Then Zhu Xiandao gave another order, and the surrounding working hours had already taken action at the same time, and one skill after another flashed in the air with colorful patterns. After a moment, all the elves stopped their actions, and at this time, all the spider adventurers in the middle fell to the ground, and all of them were unconscious. Seeing this, Zhu Xiandao slowly stepped forward to check, and then found that everyone had no breath. After all, facing the anger of hundreds of generations of management, you don't need to think about it to know its end. Congratulations to the host for completing the side quest and getting rewards, 1 talent enhancement potion, and 3 draws. Hearing the system's prompt sound, Zhu Xiandao also knew that this time his mission was completed. Zhu Xiandao and the elves cheered, but what they didn't know was that on a hill not too far away, there was a blue wolf-shaped elf, watching everything in front of them. Then he looked at Zhu Xiandao deeply, and then disappeared into the night. On the other side, Zhu Xiandao also dug a big pit immediately, and buried all the people in the soil. It is hard to find their bodies in such a forest. Even if they were found, no one would doubt it. After all, the elves were the ones who did it, and they were all wild elves in this forest. In addition, their identity was an adventure group. Even if they were beaten to death by the elves, no one would find Chen Tiandao. Chen Tiandao didn't believe that anyone would think that he could lead the elves in the entire forest to deal with an adventure group. After doing all this, Chen Tiandao was thanked by all the elves, but Chen Tiandao didn't care. Chen Tiandao originally wanted to train in this forest, but after cooperating once, if he continued to train, Chen Tiandao couldn't treat them as training opponents. After greeting the elves, Chen Tiandao returned to the previous camp again. Chen Tiandao took out the talent enhancement potion given by the system. Is this the talent enhancement potion? How do I use it? Chen Tiandao looked at the blue needle-like thing in front of him, and his face was full of confusion. It looked like an injection in the buttocks when he was a child. It looked so ordinary, but the male protagonist knew that the system would never lie. Just inject it directly. The voice of the system sounded in Chen Tiandao's mind. Padilla, come here. Chen Tiandao finally waved his hand to Padilla, intending to use this talent enhancement potion on him. Chen Tiandao also inserted the blue needle into Padilla. Padilla also looked at Chen Tiandao with a puzzled look, but just after Chen Tiandao's potion was injected, Padilla suddenly felt an extreme drowsiness all over his body, and his brain began to become less and less clear. It felt like he had not slept for several days and nights, and even his eyelids felt heavy. Then, he fell to the ground with a plop and fell asleep. What's wrong with the system? It is estimated that it will take 6 hours to improve Padilla's talent. The voice of the system sounded in Chen Tiandao's mind. So that's how it is. It takes time to change the talent level, right? Hearing the voice of the system, Chen Tiandao also took out the Pokeball and put the already sleeping Pidgeot into the Pokeball. Lottery. Chen Tiandao looked at the 3 lottery opportunities he got and used them without hesitation. Congratulations, Uncle, for getting the King's certificate in the metal film to get double the explosion rate. The protagonist Nan also had a headache. Looking at the props in front of him, Chen Tiandao was also helpless. To be honest, Chen Tiandao wanted something that could improve the attributes of the business itself, such as talent enhancement potions. Although weapons like this can also improve the combat effectiveness of the elves, this kind of thing is too good and can be bought with money. But the talent enhancement potion given by the system is probably the only one, even if it is sold all over the world. But fortunately, there is also an explosion rate improvement. At least the number of good things you get next time can be doubled. After a while, Chen Tiandao also took off his clothes and planned to take a good bath. He jumped into the lake with a splash. Chapter 50 Passive Recovery. Someone. Chen Tiandao, who was still taking a shower, suddenly realized that someone seemed to be staring at him. Chen Tiandao quickly looked around. Then Chen Tiandao found that there was a grey figure on a tree trunk not far away. It flashed by, just like a thief who was caught stealing something and fled. Oh my. Chen Tiandao's mouth twitched. He saw it clearly just now. It was the foam squirrel that appeared just now. Chen Tiandao didn't expect that the other party actually had such a secret code and actually hid in the dark and secretly watched him take a shower. What is going on? I'm not a great beauty, is it necessary? Or the previous foam squirrel was a female, like a female man who was cheating. Chen Tiandao returned to the shore and put on his clothes. The scene just now was still lingering in Chen Tiandao's mind. I never thought that there would be a day when someone would peek at me taking a shower. If you want to see it, just tell me. Not only will I let you see it openly, but I can also take a bath with you. Of course, the premise is that you have to be a woman, and a beautiful woman. Chen Tiandao looked around again. Although he did not find the figure of the foam squirrel, Chen Tiandao was sure that the squirrel was definitely still nearby. After putting on his clothes, Chen Tiandao picked up his backpack, took out a fruit from it, and slowly handed it to his mouth. Oops! Chen Tiandao shouted, and the fruit in his hand fell to the ground with a snap and rolled twice. Really, I just took a shower and my hands are a little scratched. How could such a good fruit fall? What a waste of this delicious food. As Chen Tiandao spoke, he bent down and picked up the wrapped fruit again, and then sniffed it with his nose. It smells so good. Just smelling it makes me feel good. Zhu Xiandao said, opening his mouth wide, and was about to take a bite, but a small figure rushed out. It was directly carried on Zhu Xiandao's shoulder, and the fruit in Zhu Xiandao's hand also appeared in the hand of the little creature. At this time, the foam mouse was sweeping the dust on the fruit with its little tail. Here you go. After sweeping for a long time, the foam squirrel handed the fruit in his hand to Zhu Xiandao. Originally standing back to the city, it was a little dirty, and his neck suddenly became clean and tidy, like a fruit that had just been washed. Zhu Xiandao also smiled slightly. Sure enough, the foam squirrel was like a person with misophobia and who loved cleanliness. He couldn't stand a little dust at all. Treating him in this way was really 100 times a week. Thank you so much, Zhu Xiandao said for fun, and touched the squirrel's head. On the squirrel's head, it was furry and felt very good to touch, and even made Zhu Xiandao feel like he didn't want to let go. As expected of a squirrel with misophobia and who loved cleanliness, his body felt so smooth and comfortable. It seemed that he would often take care of his hair on weekdays, which made him not only look clean and cute, but also very gentle. Zhu Xiandao then took out an evolution stone from his backpack and handed it to the squirrel. The squirrel was also confused, and when he evolved with Zhu Xiandao, he had a trace of doubt on his face. He had never seen such a thing before. Just when he wanted to speak, a white light suddenly flashed, and Mr. Qin's evolution stone suddenly disappeared and turned into a white light, completely covering the squirrel. In a few seconds, the white light dissipated, and then the more beautiful and lovely Chino squirrel appeared in front of Zhu Xiandao. His body shape was not much different from before, and the only difference was that his appearance looked more beautiful than before. At this time, Chino squirrel also looked confused. He didn't know what happened, but he still clearly felt the changes in his body. He was also full of doubts and joy that he suddenly became better. Then Chino squirrel also understood that the reason why he suddenly evolved was all because of the stone that Zhu Xiandao had just given him. After thanking the protagonist, Chino squirrel suddenly disappeared and jumped to Zhu Xiandao's backpack. Half of his body was in it, and he kept turning it over. I want to see if there is still the strange stone. Unconsciously, he took out a luxurious elf ball from Zhu Xiandao's backpack. Looking at the luxurious elf ball in his eyes, Chino squirrel's eyes were full of doubts. What kind of strange thing is this? Curious Chino squirrel kept saying yes and yes left and right, and his actions frightened Zhu Xiandao's whole body. Don't press that button. After hearing what Zhu Xiandao said, the squirrel gently pressed the button that Zhu Xiandao said. The next moment, a white light flashed across the end of the term, and the squirrel disappeared in front of Zhu Xiandao, and the luxurious elf ball also fell to the ground with a click. Zhu Xiandao was petrified in place, quietly looking at the luxurious elf ball at his feet, full of doubts in his heart. I have seen countless ways to recover elves, but I have never thought that there are elves that take the initiative to deliver to the door. Congratulations to the host for completing the down payment task and getting a luxury ball. Congratulations to the host for completing the main task, conquering 6 elves, getting a moonstone, and 6 draws. The management task is completed. The system draw system is upgraded. In the next 8 hours, the draw system will be shut down. As the system finished speaking, a moonstone suddenly appeared in Zhu Xiandao's hand, and Zhu Xiandao looked at the moonstone in front of him with shock on his face. You know, the price of moonstone is not cheap. Even if you take it outside, it is a good thing with a price but no market. What shocked Zhu Xiandao even more was the system upgrade that the system mentioned before. The draw system has been fully updated. Doesn't it mean that there are more good things in the draw system? Zhu Xiandao was very satisfied with the things in the system before, but if it continues to be updated now, wouldn't he be able to get more magical props? What's the matter with the system update? There was no such introduction before. Zhu Xiandao said puzzledly. If the system's draw system can be updated, doesn't it mean that even other things can be updated? The previous system was only in the novice stage, and the item rewards were all low level. After the system is upgraded, you will get more powerful props. The cold voice of the system sounded in Zhu Xiandao's mind again. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.